Hell yeah! I hope that people are psyched and excited as I am. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Goglings, Gogorifics, and Gog peoples to the premiere of Talisman Adventures, the fantasy role-playing game. I hope you folks enjoyed that as much as I did. That incredible music and video was provided, actually video and music was provided by Peripheral Mike. The amazing Peripheral Mike did that video, and the music is provided by Gabe Lefkowitz and Greenforge Studio. So we want to thank them, Greenforge Studio, with that music, and that video is done by this. I'm so excited. It's just like, yeah, it's amazing. An incredible job that Mike did with that. But you'll get a chance to see Mike for yourself in just a moment. For those of you who are wondering what this is Talisman Adventures. This is episode 260, I think, of Pen and Pixels. And my name is Arvanelleron. I am the host of this show, which focuses on story and narrative in games from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. But as you folks know, we have been doing D&D for a while on this channel once a month with the amazing GOG D&D stream crew. And I am very happy to announce, or to reiterate, I guess I already announced it, that we are starting today a mini campaign. Oh my God, Echo Alpha with excitement. That we are starting today. Oh, there it was. That we are starting today with the amazing Talisman Adventures fantasy role-playing game published by Pegasus Spiele. Pegasus Spiele is sponsoring this, by the way. Also, of course, we are hosting this on GOG.com. So I want to thank, first of all, GOG.com's Twitch channel for allowing us to host this campaign, at least the first session of it. Hopefully more, but at least the first session today. And I also want to thank Pegasus Spiele for sponsoring us and sponsoring this campaign. If you folks liked what you see and hear today in this game, in this tabletop game that we're about to see, let me remind you about a couple of special things you can do that can be part of this event. First of all, in the general terms, we always ask people to follow us here in the channel. We always ask people to sub to us here on GOG.com, where you can get those custom sub badges and emotes. And we always ask people to click through and check out the individual streamers who have their own subsystems and Patreons and things like that. But beyond that, we have a couple of special things for you today. First of all, we will be giving away not one, but 2 copies of the Talisman core manual. So basically the rule book, the main rule book for Talisman Adventures, the fantasy role-playing game. These are both digital PDFs. You will have them sent to you via email direct from Pegasus Spiele. And so you will be, we'll be having drawings for that. One towards the beginning of this session, then one towards the end. So you'll have a chance to win this for yourself. The second thing is that thanks to the generosity of GOG and the amazing work of our stream team leader, Pyron Jade, we have managed to also get some adventure keys, some discounts, let me rephrase, discounts on Talisman work. So there's a lot of the Nomad games, Talisman games, which are being discounted on GOG for today. I think I'll ask Pyron when I get there how far or how long that goes, but there are special discounts that are happening, which is going to be pretty cool. I love that game. Obviously, Darksaber and I are huge fans of it. Pyron is a huge fan of it as well. And there are other on the stream team who love it also. I love the Talisman board game. So having a chance to actually feature both the tabletop role-playing game and also give a little bit of love, not only to the board game, but to Nomad's amazing digital recreation of it is cool on both counts. So we got a lot of things going on today, and I'm very excited for it. And without any more further ado, I'm going to unmute myself so they know that we're ready to go. And then I'm going to unmute them, and I'm going to bring you over, as soon as I don't minimize my OBS anyway, I'm going to bring you over to our overlay. And you can see here that we have not only the team, but our full overlay, which was done amazingly by the incredible Shadowed Mage, one of my regulars, a mod on my channel, and also the DM of Community D&D, which airs on my channel Wednesday nights. He did this, and I think he did a freaking phenomenal job. I love it. It's amazing. And so we are here with Talisman Adventures, and we're here, most importantly, with these amazing players. So I am going to begin, making sure I unmuted everybody. Yes, I did. I'm going to begin by letting everyone introduce themselves, and then we're going to talk about the basics of the game. We'll talk about character creation. You're going to get a chance to see 2 of our players create characters. And then we're going to get into the adventure itself, which is called Death's Messenger. Although I'm sure that it's fine and it's no problem. I don't see why that would be any problem at all. So I will start with the person right below me, one of my favorite people on the internets, and that is the amazing stream team leader, Pyron Jade. Pyron, I know, I'm not even going to ask I guess I'll ask in general, how are things going in a global sense? But more importantly, how do you feel about this particular game, getting ready for it?
Well, my life is chaotic as usual. I'm starting to see that as like the normal path of things. And for tonight, I'm just absolutely happy to be here. The preparation for this was wonderful. I'm always into getting to know new RPG systems. So having this opportunity provided by Pegasus Spiele was just so much fun. And then getting all the support from GOG and from Nomad Games behind it, who were like, "Yes, this is wonderful. Let's discount our games." And it was a great experience setting this up.
I really appreciate it. As I've said many times to folks, that people don't all see a lot sort of front facing what Pyron's doing behind the scenes all the time. And I think I can speak for everyone here and elsewhere on the stream team that we couldn't have anybody better. And, she's worth everything that she gets, and should get much more, he said with the commercial. But I speak only for myself and not for anyone else, in that regard. But thank you, Pyron, for making this possible and for helping out with this on the GOG.com side. Moving right along, I also want to thank, as always, Darksaber 2K for setting up MooBot and Dashboard, because Two Thumbs, this guy, does not have the ability to do that while also trying to get 6 million things other done. So thank you, Saber, for doing that. How are you feeling about, I mean, I don't even need to ask you about Talisman, right? Like I could just say the word and I assume there's just a glow that surrounds you. Like, how are you feeling about this game, I guess I would say?
I'm really excited to be playing this. It's my first time playing something that isn't Dungeons and Dragons, the big one. And it's also my first time creating my own character that I will be playing myself. So I'm quite interested how he will turn out. I like what we've done with him. Like, we thrashed out the details the other day. I'm not one of the ones who'll be creating a character tonight. I'm already done.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to introducing everybody. We've got great people. We've got a great DM. We've got a great community. And I'm really looking forward to having a blast with it tonight.
Huzzah on all counts. Couldn't say it any better. Thank you as always. Much appreciated. Moving right on down the line, we have the person who was responsible for that video. I was just in awe. Like, that plus the music, just came together so beautifully, and it looks awesome. And it occurred to me, of course, that I was holding up a 20-sided die when in fact this game doesn't use 20-sided dice. But whatever, all right? That just shows that I can shift from like campaign to campaign and apparently forget rules from one to the next. But anyway, yes. No, it looked absolutely amazing. So Mike, thank you. Great job. Phenomenal job. And if you want more, you should go to Peripheral Mike for all of your needs, tech related and you should give his company some serious love immediately. But thank you, Mike. Great stuff. And I'll ask you now. I know you have not played Talisman, but of course you do love role playing, as you prove on a monthly basis on this channel. So what are your feelings about setting up for this game?
You are entirely correct, good sir. I do love role-playing. In fact, I'm playing in several different campaigns, and also the campaign I'm playing with yourself at the moment, through Storm King's Thunder. And it is one of those things, I'm addicted. I used to be addicted when I was younger. There was a bit of a long gap, and now I'm just completely and totally addicted to it once again. Talisman, honestly, I have no idea what to expect. I've had a very, very brief look at the rules in regards to character creation, nothing more, but I'm very interested to see how this works out. I know it has something to do with 3 6-sided dice, and I already know none of us could know the rules. I think one of the big testaments here is I'm excited because none of us could know the rules and we could still have the best time in the world. Like, that would still be a thing. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's same, and I could not have better players to ask to be part of this journey, so I'm very excited for that. And I'm also excited to have, of course, Chai with us. And I do want to say, Chai, of course, we play every month with Chai on the Storm King's Thunder campaign, and Chai has been dealing, of course, with a very active and lovable baby who doesn't fully, grasp the gravity of role playing and like why it matters. So I have to say that with sort of my favorite little waving part of the video that Mike made is honestly the part where it's Chai's part, where Chai's just sort of doing this waving thing and then looks back and has this lovely smile looking back at her child and everything. It's great. But I have to say, several of us in this call are parents. We know that feel about children being like, I want to do my own thing, actually. And so Chai is always really like I don't know how she does this, but I really, really appreciate that Chai is always here with a smile, despite, what must obviously be fatigue and everything with dealing with with a lovely daughter who's still growing. So thank you, Chai, publicly for being that way. And having said all of that, what are your feelings about getting set up for this new experience roleplay-wise?
I am so excited. I know literally nothing about this, and I'm really, really excited. Like I glanced at okay, what are the classes and what are the races, and then I can work from there. So I glanced at that, and then I know nothing else. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. And someone's been very spirited lately. So hopefully she lets me create a character, and I am really excited to find out what Pyron's character is, because she's just been dying to tell us.
Yeah, I should drag this out longer so that Pyron doesn't get to tell anyone. She's just like, let me tell you my character. You're going to get a chance to do that just in a second, Pyron. But yeah, thank you, Chai, very much. I appreciate it. And yes, chat. So as a quick note, by the way, to the mods, to the hopefully non-Talisman playing mods at the moment, that I'm going to ask in just a couple of minutes for us to run our first raffle of 2. We're going to be giving away 2 copies of the Talisman Core rulebook. So this is the rulebook that has both the player's guide and the game master's guide in one book. The print editions of these are coming out next month. So this is digital copies. You're going to be getting them via email, but there's going to be a drawing for folks in chat if you were interested in seeing more, and you should be. It's a really interesting system, and it's interesting, well, for reasons I'll talk about in a minute. So just a note to the mods that we're going to be doing that giveaway in just a moment. Also, chat, you may notice that I have not placed names down below any of the windows besides my own. That's because my name is not going to change. I know what my name is. But for these wonderful folks, their character names are yet to be determined/revealed. Now, 2 of these folks, specifically Pyron and Darksaber, the first 2 in the column below me, have already made their characters and do have names, and so I will fill them in as they are speaking about their characters. Before I do that, my apologies, Pyron, I do want to just take a minute to explain the basics, though, about the actual way that the game operates and works. And I'm going to fire up some music on Roll20 just while I do that, so that we have that accompanying us. And I'm going to use the Forest music, which is brought to us by Greenforge Studio. These folks are amazing. One of the things I love about Greenforge is the fact that it's a real, honest-to-God orchestra. It's not just synthesized instruments, and as a player of an orchestral instrument and trumpet myself for a long time, I love it when we don't just synthesize everything to hell. So it was great to see an actual orchestral music. So, let me introduce you all to Talisman Adventures. Again, this is a game that was released by Pegasus Spiele, and the interesting thing about this game is that although it, on the surface, is a very clear, inspired by the board game type of thing, and in fact, you'll see numerous examples of that. In fact, the map you're looking at right here on the screen is called The Realm, and The Realm has things like the city and ruins and things that will be familiar to anybody who's actually played the board game. However, Talisman Adventures is actually tricky because it's actually much more involved than that, and any of the players who have had a chance to look at the guide will tell you that now. There is, for example, just as in the board game, a strength and a craft score, which roughly corresponds to strength, like, feats of might, athletics, things like that, and craft, which is things like intelligence and so forth, right? But the system with Talisman actually breaks it down further. So in strength, you have things like brawn and metal and things that are specific to particular skills that you would need to be testing. In craft, you may have things like psychic abilities and things like that. And even further breaking it down, some of those skills can have what is called a focus, which means that you will have not only that skill, but have particularly trained it so that you'll get a benefit when you're testing the skill. So it's not, oh, cool, thanks, Coven. So it's not something where it's just like as obvious as it might seem. Even the life score, which is, in Talisman you start with 4 lives in the board game. Here, the life is much more variable depending on your class, depending on your ancestry, which is the equivalent of what race used to be in Dungeons & Dragons, things like that. So it's much more complex than it might otherwise seem. And one of the most interesting things about it to me is the introduction of 3 ideas that I think are different than the norm. The first is that I roll very little. The rolling is done almost exclusively by the players. Even when the enemies are attacking players in combat, let's say, I usually am not rolling dice for them. They have a particular threat level number that I give to the party and the individual player in question, and then it is the player's job to roll dice to overcome that particular threat. And this is the case whether you're talking about a skill like climbing a wall, or whether it's trying to hit a zombie in the face. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, that's based upon the party rolling dice to overcome a threat. So there's much less of the why do you keep rolling so well, DM, and much more of the god damn it, why didn't I roll better, or whatever, which could happen in this scenario. So I think that that's a really cool innovation. It's not something which is not unheard of, but it's interesting in the way that they deploy it. The other thing about rolling dice in this game, and the second thing that is interesting, is an introduction of a mechanic known as light and dark fate. At the beginning of every encounter, combat encounter, all of the players will receive one light fate. That light fate will allow them to alter and affect their roles and things that happen during the course of combat. Some of their abilities, for example, oh my goodness, Greenforge Studio, speak of the devil, oh, I see Echo Alpha gifted a sub to Greenforge Studio. Welcome, Greenforge Studio. I missed that completely. Oh, there we go. There's Greenforge. What's up, Gabe? Greenforge Studio, you folks should go over and check that out. Like, as I say, amazing music. Echo, thank you for gifting a sub to Greenforge Studio. That's really nice of you. Yeah, the music is beautiful, and you're hearing more of it going on right now. This is also Greenforge's work. Thank you, Gabe, very much. Thank you so much for licensing this and for letting us use this lovely music. So, yes, light fate and dark fate. So the light fate can allow the party members to trigger particular abilities at times, or can add extra damage, or can re-roll dice depending on the situation. So a lot of those things are options that are available to the party members with the use of light fate. There are sometimes things that will give them light fate during combat or take it away as well, depending on events that happen or particular abilities of the monsters that they face, but that's the basic idea. I also get a point of dark fate in a combat, and I can use dark fate to affect one of the monster's abilities or to affect one of the players. Even though I try not to be particularly adversarial, it is my job to play the monsters credibly and not just sit there while, someone wails away on their face. I can't do that, and so I will be able to use dark fate as well in this regard. So light fate and dark fate is the second thing that I think is really interesting as a thing that they've added. And the last thing which has been added here is the use of something which is called a Kismet Die. So all of the basic checks in this game are done by rolling 3d6. In fact, pretty much everything is done by rolling 6-sided dice. You don't use 20-sided dice. For the most part, you use just 6-sided dice. And almost everything will involve 3d6. Sometimes you can lose a die or have a die added depending, but 3d6 is the base, right? But of those dice, 2 of them are just normal dice, and the third die that is rolled of those 6-sided dice is known as a Kismet Die. That die, number 1, adds its total to the rest, so you roll 3 dice, and one of the dice is a Kismet Die, and that, whatever the number is, you add to the total. But the Kismet Die also has an additional effect in the following way. If the Kismet Die rolls a 1, then it means that something much more negative than perhaps the party member had originally intended may happen. It may mean a fumble of a weapon, it may mean damage doesn't happen as well as one might have expected, or something like that. The other side of that, of course, is if one rolls a 6, because then something super awesome has happened. Perhaps they've scored a critical hit. Perhaps they have not only climbed the wall, but leaped over it so dramatically that someone's like, that's amazing, here, have 5 gold. That's the best entertainment I've seen all day, or whatever, right? So the idea here is that the Kismet dice add a element of randomness, which is part and parcel of the Talisman board game, but without making it so you feel just like you don't have any control at all over what happens. You do, but fate will make an alteration in the way these things happen. So those 3 basics, me not rolling, the party rolling pretty much everything, the light and dark fate thing, and the Kismet dice, those are the things which are the most significant, I think, different aspects of Talisman, although there are many others to be involved. As I go through here, we're going to start with character introductions now. As I go through here, chat can feel free to ask questions. I will say up front, though, that I'm going to be running a lot of stuff at once, and I do want to try to get us through character creation so that we can start playing the adventure as well. So if I don't answer your question, I apologize. You can also feel free to DM me, and I will be happy to answer that question later. Also, as I mentioned to the chat, to the players off stream, I have read through the book a couple of times now, but nonetheless, it is a very different system from any one that I have GM'd or DM'd before. So since it is 300 plus pages, you will forgive me if I do not have all of the rules readily to hand, especially since I'm using basically a PDF. So I may not know the answer to a lot of these questions, at least immediately. So just bear with me basically as I'm picking up on this system also. Having said all of that, I think it is time for us to have our characters introduced. So I will begin by moving over to, sorry, it's a little loud. That's better. I will start by moving over to Pyron. And Pyron, I'm going to ask you to, if you would not mind, please tell me what is the name of your character, and then you can tell everyone what she is, because I know you've been really excited to tell us. So what's the name of the character?
The name of my character is Regina Augusta Iii.
Okay. Regina Augusta Iii. So
Yes.
I'm thinking we're looking at, like, you know, some kind of, I mean, I imagine that we're looking at someone who's really, like, has great grace and refinement, right? I mean, I'm feeling like that's how I'm feeling. How do we feel about that? Not so much. What is this character actually?
This character is a sprite. And those of you who know sprites, think of them as, well, maybe like relatives of elves. Think of Tinkerbell. Regina Augusta III more like resembles a heavily armed bumblebee.
Heavily armed bumblebee. Awesome.
Yes, I am exiled from the sprite court. But it was like totally not my fault, because I tell you that guy was looking strangely at me. He was definitely looking at me,
Yes.
like in a way.
Right.
And that needed to stop. I'm sorry that he was like the cousin of the king. Still, so being exiled from the fairy courts, the several fairy courts, where my parents wanted me to be a good sprite, was actually the best thing that could happen to me. Do you know how big the cups are that the humans serve alcohol in? It's awesome. I love being in the city, I love being a free sprite, and I love being a heavily armed one. So, Regina Augusta III is a Sprite Warrior. When I decided on this character, one of the things I saw is that the strength and the craft values are actually detached from the races. They are attached to the classes.
Right.
That means that every warrior, no matter the race, starts with a strength of 4.
This also happens to be the maximum strength a sprite can possess, but that's okay. You made it under the line. You made it. You arrived.
Absolutely. And I mean, everybody who knows Pratchett's Free Wee Men, just imagine they could also fly. So, Regina Augusta III is here to play.
Regina Augusta III is here to play. I'm very excited for this. So, I think actually what I'll do is I will let Darksaber introduce his character, and then what we'll do is we'll go through, and hopefully Chai will be back by then, but that way Mike at least can be listening in on how these different things are put together, so that Mike can be thinking about what he wants to do as we go through here. And note to the mods, we'll do the first giveaway here as about 5 minutes or so. I want to let Saber introduce himself first. So, all right, Saber. So we have now a Sprite Warrior. We'll be hearing, by the way, much more from Pyron about Regina Augusta III and various characteristics and stuff in a bit. But first, we're going to start with Saber's name and sort of what the deal is with this character. And he's going to be very prominent in this first adventure, incidentally. Death's Messenger. He's going to be definitely prominent in this as well. So yeah, Saber, tell us what is the name of your character, please?
I'll just say before I say that,
Yeah.
I did not know that was going to be Byron's character's name when I picked mine. Because I am Reginald Shone.
Reginald Shone. As long as it's not the third.
No.
Also, I know I have
my
your thing
character
here.
would be more like the 43rd.
Yeah, that's it. That's true. Or just the first, but like it never ends. So Shone, can you spell the last one for me? I know I have it, and you sent it to me.
Yeah, let me just pull up my sheet because it is a specific spelling. And there is a joke in there, but you're going to have to find it. Schoen.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. All right, so Reginald
That's not
Shone.
big sausage, is it?
It's not. Not in any language I know of, anyway.
Okay.
All right, Reginald Shone. So as I'm putting this name down, why don't you tell the lovely folks what Reginald's deal is?
Well, he comes from a long-lived family line, mostly living in the city where he inherited the family business. His parents were called back to bigger things in the homeland of our species. And I read it's a modest business. It sort of goes with the territory, but there is a fair amount of prejudice because people get a bit distressed about dead people handling the dead. They think we might eat them. Being a ghoul, I have to put up with a fair amount of that, but I am naturally gifted for processing the meat when it's no longer a vessel for the spirit, and I help guide the spirits onto... Quiet you, Mike. I see you. I help guide on the spirits into the next part of their life, the much more interesting part of their life. Now they don't have to deal with these awkward, fleshy water bags that are so prone to just breaking down.
Yeah, no, I mean that's exactly the way things are. And you also, it should be pointed out, you are not alone in this work, because you have a faithful companion.
I do, very faithful. So faithful, in fact, he refuses to believe that he has passed on and will not continue on his path to the other side. And therefore, I am accompanied on my adventures by the spirit of our family pet, Boots the dog.
Boots the dog. I love the idea that the dog just doesn't understand that it's dead, and you finally just gave up. You're like, well, all right, fine. So
he wandered in one day, grateful for the company. He was very non-judgmental.
Right.
You take all that sort of company you can get being a ghoul.
Sure. Absolutely.
And one day he left but didn't leave. And I couldn't convince him otherwise that he shouldn't be here anymore. He doesn't care.
So as a consequence, it means that we actually have this person who's here. Now, Boots the dog, I will say, also does have a mechanical effect because he is actually known as a spirit capital F follower. You will remember from the board game, if any of you have seen us play it or played it yourself, that there are followers in this game. And there are followers in the tabletop game as well, and the followers actually have particular effects. The interesting thing is that there's a currency associated with followers. They all begin with a certain amount of loyalty, but over time that loyalty can be spent by players to do various things. And if the loyalty ever reaches 0 and stays there for 24 hours, the follower will leave. And so, although Boots the dog, for example, is extremely loyal, if Reginald does not do what is necessary to perhaps give the spirit a little bit of sustenance through some ether or something like that, I have to double check actually and see what the sustenance is. But literally, part of what you need to do is maintain your follower by providing them loyalty, and then they spend that loyalty to benefit the character in various ways. And so, yeah, so Boots the dog, we will see whether Boots the dog stays there. But so you were a ghoul in a graveyard, and you said you were a druid, right? You're a ghoul druid. So
that is correct. Well, my parents were running because you're born a ghoul. You're not, contrary to popular belief, bitten, die, and come back. You are born of ghouls. You are born a ghoul. You will always be a ghoul. You are not undead because that would imply you have died and come back. We prefer the term differently alive.
Differently alive, yes.
Yes.
Or
to better understand the
vitally
processes.
Challenged, maybe. Might be with it. Yes, differently alive.
To understand our place in the world and the processes involved in death, renewal, rebirth, the cycle of nature. I spent my younger years studying as a druid. I used my abilities to quietly tend to my graveyard. with my many restful friends.
Yeah, and you've done a very good job at it. You're well known now within the city as being the purveyor of this graveyard. Yes, Nieto, there are many hurtful stereotypes about ghouls. May I come in to tell you more? Exactly. Have you heard the good news about ghouls? Yeah, so we will have... So I want to point out, just our first two characters, we have a Sprite Warrior and we have a Ghoul Druid. So let it not be said that we will play according to your standard type. That will not happen on this watch, but it's going to be a really fun character. We don't like to say past life, we prefer vintage life. Yes, vintage experience of living, exactly. So there you go. So you got Regina Augusta III, the Sprite Warrior, and Reginald Schoen, the Ghoul Druid, and we will talk more about aspects of their character as we go through here. And that leads us to the next two players, the ones who have yet to produce characters, because we waited to do that until now so that we could show this to all of you. So just before we get this started, I'm going to ask if Kilgore or 8-Bit or Lovelust or one of the mods would be so kind as to prepare a raffle for the first of two digital editions of the Pegasus Spiele Talisman Adventures fantasy role-playing game core book. So would one of you be willing to put together a raffle for me, please, and then run that raffle? You can use whatever word you like. Totally up to whoever does it. And we're going to run a raffle, and then the winner of this raffle will get a digital copy emailed to you, courtesy of Pegasus Spiele. Also, while we're on the subject of courtesy of, can we thank again GOG.com for making all of the Nomad Talisman games cheaper today? There is a special sale on a bunch of these that are happening. Pyron, until when is that happening? Until January what? Do you know?
I think it is the 29th, but there is 29th.
Oh, there's a
little,
command.
There's
Cool.
a little banner below the stream window, and I also put it in the !Pix command.
Yay! Awesome.
And
So
also big thanks to Nomad Games, who heard about us doing this tonight, and they were actually serious, like, this is a great idea, we support this. It was really wonderful. Their emails
great.
were absolutely lovely, and it made me so happy that they were as excited as we were.
That's awesome. Hey, Terry. That's cool. Hey, Terry, if you're lurking and you just happen to accidentally fall over and accidentally draw a Sprite Warrior and a Ghoul Druid, I mean, I wouldn't complain. You know, if you just happen to accidentally fall over and draw something. I know you have a little minor, proficiency in drawing, so I just thought I'd mention. Anyway, so now the raffle is open. Thank you, Lovelust. Now the raffle is open, so let's do it. People who want to win a copy of the core manual, again, this is the digital edition, please type in raffle if you want to win this thing. All right, while they are doing that, I am going to jump down here to character creation, and I am going to start by asking, that's not how you do it, I'm going to find the thing, because I totally don't have a PDF that I'm having to fight with at all. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. This PDF, by the way, is great. And actually, there are very few mistakes, even like regular errors in the whole thing. So it's great. My complaint is that something about my Adobe Acrobat doesn't like to play nicely. So I am looking forward to the physical release myself because it makes GMing easier. But for you folks, the digital stuff is going to be great because much more
I
portable.
just like physical books. I gotta admit, physical role-playing books are just better.
Yeah, it's nothing against the quality of the digital book. It's just
Absolutely not. But a physical book, the tactile feel of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if you click on the look at Pegasus Spiele, this is the way to get an advanced look at things, and that is just totally awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, absolutely. I used for different D&D campaigns. I've used PDFs for God knows how long. I bought them from D&D Beyond and stuff like that. So it's a perfectly functional way of doing it. There's something about physical books. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, here we go.
And I can tell you, it worked really well with my Acrobat reader, so I didn't have any problems, but it absolutely overloaded my Kindle.
Yeah.
It was because it just has so many awesome graphics, and it's just so well made.
It really is, yeah. They did a good job with the art. So you're right, it was agreed to all counts, but I printed out at Adventure to avoid this. Anyway, so I'm going to start by, and I'm going to bring us through all of this, so I'm going to start by asking the players, and I will start with Pyron and Saber because they already did this. The first step in creating a character is to choose your ancestry. Now, so chat knows, there are 7 different starting classes. Although I am reliably told by Pegasus Spiele, when I asked them whether there would be many adventures released for this and expansions, the quote was, "This is Talisman. of course there will be many expansions. So they were like, there will be lots of them. There are going to be supplement books. There are going to be a whole bunch of things. So you will see a lot of different characters here. But the ones that we have to begin with, these ancestries, are dwarf, elf, ghoul, previously mentioned, human, lay walker, which is kind of a creature of nature in the forest that uses like a kind of mysticism is a big part of their makeup. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Sprite, we have one of those, of course. And naturally, troll. You couldn't have Talisman if you didn't have a troll. But this is the good kind, not the ones that do obnoxious things.
I'll jump in and say Troll Minstrel was an option I was considering.
Yeah, that would really... Enjoy my music now.
Not gonna lie, it definitely crossed my mind.
All right, so let me start with, so Pyron chose a sprite, Darksaber chose a ghoul. Mike, do you have an idea what kind of ancestry you would like to have? And in case you're curious, the way to look at this in terms of different types of characters is as follows. Let me pop down to each of them. And I'll just run through the basics. And chat, most of the time when we play these, we'll be spending our time, just like with Storm King's Thunder, doing playing. But especially for this, since this is so new to everybody, we wanted everyone to have a chance to see how characters are made and also to get a sense. So this is a session 0.5, I guess you could think of it.
The character creation session. Everyone loves character creation. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But we will get a little bit of play in at the end. All right. So let me go up to Dwarf. So I can...
It really wasn't that bad. Would it take us about an hour to get the two of us set up, roughly?
I think that's right. I think it took about an hour, roughly. Okay, 56, 58. Lovely. All right. So... yeah, this is a 300-page book. Okay. So...
not small.
A dwarf. First of all, it probably is not surprising to anybody that a dwarf's ancestry and culture is about being comfortable in the deep and dark places of the earth, at least where their ancestors began. But that is not necessarily what the dwarves feel this one. It should be noted that dwarves do tolerate ghouls because they serve as a useful purpose in shepherding the restless dead of the realm. Dwarves, however, do not have much patience for the tricks, thank you for the follow, for the tricks and fickleness of sprites. How that's going to actually play in here, if anyone chooses a dwarf, I don't know. But the abilities that a dwarf has is all dwarves can see underground as if they were outdoors at twilight. All dwarves can either have rolling stone, which means that when you're underground or in the hills, you can re-roll a d6 in any test once per day. Also, when you also have +1 speed at combat when you were in the hills or underground, so that's pretty useful. And then internal compass, you have an excellent sense of direction. You can orient yourself to cardinal directions above or below ground. You can tell whether an underground passage leads upwards or downwards. And when you're underground, if you are making a guide test, I'll explain that when we get to exploration, you can just choose to succeed without having to roll because you're a dwarf, and that's your deal. Also, you can forge iron. You can forge and repair items using only a small campfire. And the last bit of information that you have has to do with your background. You can gain brawn, resolve, or metal depending on where you actually began the game with. So I'm going to start with dwarf. Are either of you interested in being a dwarf or not? Okay, that's a no from Chai.
No, I am not.
All right. On we go then to... Go ahead, Mike.
I do actually have an idea in mind.
Oh, give it to me.
Probably, well, I like the idea of Laywalker.
Okay. So, a Laywalker is a manifestation of the inherent magic of the realm. They are also known as children of the portal, so they are connected to the magical webs of power that crisscross the realm. Most Laywalkers in the outer region dwell in the Great Forest, although they can occasionally be found in remote settlements near forests. And I think what I'll do is I will just very quickly pop up here a window capture so people can see what a Laywalker looks like.
And from the artwork, it looks very kind of Pan from the mythology.
Yes. And
it can never sleep on its side.
Never sleep on its side.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure they sleep standing. That's like how I saw that. Like this is a.
Well, they don't sleep.
This is a race that sleeps standing up.
Yeah.
And I totally like that. And I totally like this image of the Laywalker like standing still in the woods, sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
I mean,
a
if you
lay
look at those
walker.
eyes, that's someone who's not gotten a lot of sleep. I mean, parents in chat
Exactly.
will attest to this.
It's month 7 million of the 2020
It's-
pandemic. That's what that
It's
is.
the 700th day of March 2019.
So anyway, that is a lay walker. So to give people a little bit of a sense then of what the lay walker actually is, lay walkers, as we said, are mystical in nature. They look a bit like fawns with humanoid torsos, large goat-like ears, enormous curved horns that sprout from their foreheads. Their skin varies from a dark tan to deep mahogany in color. They are covered from head to hoof in a unique set of runic swirls and patterns that describe their lineage and possibly even their inherent nature and fate. They have no particular hierarchy. When a lay walker reaches their first century, they live for a long time. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's important. They make a pilgrimage back to the great portal between the realms, where they contemplate what they have learned of the world, magic, and themselves. At the end of 3 days, if they are so blessed, the lay walker generates a child called a scion. And as soon as the offspring is ready, the parent spends the next decade teaching them. And so an adult lay walker basically has the chance to do that. And not all lay walkers, incidentally, are blessed with scions. Sometimes they need to go wander and find out more before they return to gather information again. They do not have direct contact with other ancestries. They have the closest connection probably with sprites and elves, because they are all native to the Great Forest. And they also like a given person's potential for magic, so they are drawn to sprites and ghouls and wizards and druids and other spellcasting types as well. So that would certainly fit in with what we have. So the other thing to note about them is that they have some benefits to them. They have the psychic or lore skill. They have an increased cap on their wits or insight. They can basically, be even smarter or more insightful than the average character could be. They have this intricate set of runes which describes a single spell, and the lay walker can cast this spell once per day. The spell energy restores after a full rest. Also, the lay walker has the ability to either be a ley line walker, which is something where you can create a portal anchor by spending light fate. And the benefit of that is that once you create this portal anchor, it basically is like hearthstoning, right? You can travel back to that spot when you're elsewhere in the realm if you wish to do so. And you can bring another person with you for every additional light fate that you spend. So if you spent 3 light fate to create it, if you spent another 3, you could bring your entire party of 4, 3 others plus you, with you. So that's good. Or you could choose Magic Sense, which identifies whether an item or place is fundamentally magical. Or you have a Magic Nature, which means that you have a number of spell points that can be granted to other spellcasters at will, or after you attack and deal damage, you can use one to add more psychic damage as well. If you choose a class that has a spellcasting feature, you can also use those spell points to cast spells as normal. So those are things you'd have to choose among those 3. But that's a sense basically of what those kinds of characters actually are. So having said that, Mike, any thoughts about, are you good with a lay walker, or do you...
Well, I like the idea of a lay walker because it seems like a very intricate character to play. It seems like an interesting race to RP, or an interesting ancestry to RP. However, I think the class that I'm leaning towards probably doesn't lend itself to the lay walker, because the class, if you want me to go into that now?
Sure.
The class I was leaning towards was assassin.
Yeah, lay walker assassin might not quite work.
Well, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know how malleable those two things would be. It would be a very interesting character.
I think, you know what?
The story.
I'm willing to allow you to do it. The biggest concern that I have, though, is mechanical, and I will. It's basically that. It's the horns. Like, how do you? I mean, I guess you could cover those all in black cloth. I mean, I don't know.
Could. It depends on how culturally different or ancestrally different these horns can be. Because, I'm thinking
there are different kinds of assassins. You just
Exactly,
be that crafty
right?
sneak in and feed them some poison fruit kind of assassin.
Exactly.
Ah.
Right? I'm the in-your-face assassin.
Or maybe he is specialized on killing people in the woods.
In the
Yes,
woods.
absolutely.
In the woods, yes, you heard about
Yeah,
it.
like
Absolutely.
outside.
Well,
You don't need to
I
kill
was-
people in the city the whole time. You can kill people who are stupid enough to leave the
Well, I-
city.
Oh,
But I'd
100%.
also like to reiterate that we have a
sort of-
Sprite Warrior.
That's very true. That's very true.
Right now, someone in Pegasus Spiele is like, this isn't showing off anything that's part of the game. What are they doing? It's like bunch of goofballs.
But I liked the idea of the assassin, and I liked the aesthetic of the lay walker. And I thought it would be quite nice to have, just from an RP point of view, someone who is very kind of mystical and spiritual, as like not your stereotypical kind of, I'm an assassin, I'm doing this for money or political gain or revenge or anything like that. It's more like, no, I'm a shepherd of spirits who are clinging onto this world for too long. So I will seek these people out and make sure they are shuffled onto the next world, because if I don't, then the world will become overrun, and it's my sacred duty to do that. But
I like that.
How, without knowing too much about the history of the ancestors, the history of the ancestry and the lore, I don't know if that would really work.
Well, I mean, what I would say about that is because there has been so little contact between lay walkers and other creatures, I think it's reasonable to assume that lay walkers can go in different directions, including that, because it really is kind of an individual path, really, that every lay walker has to ultimately follow. Assassins do not have to be evil, and in fact, as you all know, my personal preference is not necessarily to GM evil characters unless I have to. But in any case, like, it's not like an assassin is like a murderous psychopath. Like, there are different versions, right, of the way these things work. I'd also point out that there's another way to think of the lay walker, and I wouldn't, this is totally up to you. It's also conceivable that you could trim your horns the way one would nails, and that might be seen as deeply problematic to people that haven't made the same commitment that you have. Like other lay walkers, I could imagine being kind of like, what, but it might be something that would be sort of the path that you've chosen to follow. I think if you can explain it narratively, then I think it's okay. You do have the ability, for example, as a lay walker, to because of your psychic ability, you have the ability to do stuff where you could create damage in people psychically, which obviously is not going to have the same outward effect as stabbing them through the heart or something like that. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. As I said to Pyron, a Sprite Warrior isn't really maximizing efficiency in terms of like attributes. So a lay walker assassin is not generally what I imagine would be these things together, but I don't have any problem with it myself, and I think it's perfectly reasonable as long as you can explain it narratively.
I would love to be able to explain it narratively, even to the point where my character would either have, like you said, trimmed the horns back, or have gone through some sort of ritual to bend them back. Like people shape them over many years, because he's been alive for centuries. Like there could be cords tying them back so they grow in certain ways, so that they go down. This sort of thing. So I'm excited to play as a lay walker assassin just to see how it rolls. And I think thematically it would be quite good, because suddenly, the ghoul, who is the caretaker of the graveyard, or the keeper of the graveyard, and the Sprite Warrior, who is flying around doing the Sprite Warrior thing, suddenly meets a lay walker assassin who isn't necessarily a evil character. They're just a duty-bound character. They're not looking to kill people indiscriminately. That's not their way. That's not their belief. It's just that people who are identified as being close to the end of their thread of life just sometimes need a bit of a push.
This would be an interesting discussion to have with a certain ghoul druid who runs a cemetery that I know. Can
I bring up something from the rulebook in favor of a lay walker assassin?
Sure.
Yes, you absolutely can.
Because there's actually a quote from a lay walker in the book, and the lay walker said, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I made 3 others just to see what would happen. And I can totally imagine like an old guy like hunting in the woods, losing his path, and then just coming like face to face with the lay walker assassin standing there.
Yeah. Your time has come, friend.
That was by the famous poet Robert Frostbite, of course. Yes, I'm fine with this. If that's what you want to do, I'm cool doing it.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Do you have a sense of a name, or are we still thinking about that?
Not yet, no.
Okay. All right, so lay walker assassin. In case people are curious about this assassin part of things, I'm going to jump down to assassin, and then I'll get to Chai about ancestry in just a moment. So if we jump back down here, I smell a business model here. One kills the other, feeds at the other's graveyard. Yeah, I can see there's definitely some chance for collaboration. I could definitely see that. But I think it's important that this is definitely not someone who's doing this so that they can get an extra bit of coin. Like, this is someone who's kind of fulfilling a purpose. The assassin is basically, their job is to avoid open conflict until every detail is known and controlled, at which point the assassin ends the conflict in the blink of an eye. This is the point where I mentioned the fact that I'm doing a Kickstarter starting sometime in the next month or so about my Grey Shade series, which is about a assassin who kills in a city. I'm just saying there may be a little bit of branding going on, but
I don't know where I got the idea from.
Yeah, exactly. Although my assassin is definitely not a lay walker, but anyway.
Yeah.
So when you create a class, you get benefits to your strength and to your craft, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Your core features are treachery, so you get a bonus die when making deception tests. You are a professional, and a professional spends times preparing. So when you have made an attack against an enemy that you've studied and prepared to kill, you set aside one die that is not a Kismet die. And after you've rolled the rest of the dice, you can set the die you set aside to any result. So basically, once you're done rolling, you could then say, okay, I want this other die to be a 6 or a 1 or whatever, basically, fits what I approve of in this way. So, yeah. So that's what the assassin does. And the assassin also has the choice of one of the following. Either A, Path of Blood, which means when you reduce an enemy to 0 life, you can spend Light Fate to make an attack against another enemy whose threat is less than or equal to your initial target. So basically, stab the one guy in the throat, turn around, slash the other guy across the throat, because that's the way it was. Actually, I think I just realized this guy, basically what you're making is Thane from Mass Effect 2. And if you don't know who that is, go look up best NPC in Mass Effect, because it ought to be Thane. Thane is a badass, and that's exactly...
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I love him. Anyway, so Path of Blood. So there's that. Also, when you use the feature to make an additional attack, that attack deals an extra damage on a success. So that's one option. Or Unerring Aim, which means that if you spend Light Fate, you can ignore all terrain enemies between you and your target, and other enemies or creatures cannot block your movement to that target. If your target is carrying a handheld shield, your first attack against that target also ignores the shield's effects. So it's just like you're on top of them when they do stuff, which is pretty epic. So that is what we're looking at.
And like suddenly I'm just there in front of them.
Yep. You're just like, nope, no one gets in my way. So those are the things of an assassin. We'll talk more about the details in a moment. But okay, so we've got Mike. So think about a name and then start looking at the ancestry bonuses and stuff, and we'll come back to you. Okay, last but certainly not least, we come to Tasty Chai. Chai, do you have an ancestry that you are looking at that appeals to you, or not?
Well, so Saber. I was actually gonna be an elf druid, but he's a druid already.
It's okay if you want to be 2 druids. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like 2 druids would be 1 druid too many. Maybe not.
You can never
I don't
have
know.
too many stick wizards. That's what
There are 3 different druid backgrounds, so you could be like
talk about trees and dead things.
There are so you could be a totally different kind of druid than Saber's kind of ghoul druid.
Yeah, well, so I was going to be primarily interested in the life aspect rather than the death aspect, so maybe we could do it. Baby.
Yeah, that's totally up to you. But are you pretty set on elf regardless, or does that change?
I think so, because my other question mark was Laywalker, but after you explained it to Mike, I think I'm leaning toward elf instead.
Okay.
Because deep down, I'm actually a hippie who wants to live in a tree.
Okay. Yeah, that's the secret life. No, for sure. So an elf maintains a special kinship with the realm and its history. Elves have their own hierarchies within the forest hold and the adjoining woodlands. They are capable of killing massive elements and then sliding down their tusks. No, that's just Legolas. Different kind of elf. But they're all super, efficient in combat. In addition to that, they are characters that have a certain rivalry and understanding about things. So they find they have no problem with sprites. They are quite familiar with sprites. Elves regard ghouls as fascinating curiosities. mostly because of their relative youth, because lore keepers speak of a time before humans and ghouls, and so the elves always want to know. So you might, find a ghoul to be interesting, kind of like, oh, tell me more about the time of being, what it's like to be not dead, differently alive. What is that like? So things like that. The elves are not so wild about the ghouls' affinity for death and decay, but they ultimately view it as kind of part of their nature. And so there's that. And I would say that for Laywalkers, they have a direct connection with them also. So basically, Sprite, Elf, Laywalker all fits, and the ghoul is one of those, like, interesting, let's talk more about that. So I think that works in terms of your connection with other ancestries. The other thing is that you have certain bonuses. You increase your maximum for agility or wits. We'll talk about the details of that a little bit later. You get the missile weapon or survival skill. And you have several special abilities that are significant. You have, first of all, what is called Night Sight, which is sort of like the dwarves thing, but it's essentially infravision, right? You can see at night as if it were daytime. Torches and other light sources do not affect night sight, but that ability does not aid them when they are underground or in a building. So when you're above ground, you can see great, and you might need a little bit, the dwarves would be the ones to help you. Folks don't have any dwarves, so that's not going to be, something that helps necessarily when you're underground, but still. Also, you have the ability to either choose movement of leaves. Once per day when you're in the woods or forest, you can re-roll a d6 in any test. Or forest meld, which means you can spend a light fate to blend into the bark of a tree in a wooded area, offering you perfect concealment, like just suddenly tree. Or speak with animals. You can converse with any wild animal, including mammals, reptiles, and birds, but not fish. The animals can answer questions, although they see the world from a different perspective than you, and their answers may not always make sense. Animals may be willing to perform small favors, especially when that is in an animal's best interest. And then the last thing is based upon your particular background, which we'll come to when we get to that a little bit later on. So that's basically it. So it sounds like you're looking at elf. And then how do you feel about druid versus something else? Do you want to stay with druid or?
So I was bouncing between druid and prophet, but prophet sounds kind of scary. Because it's like so new and different, and it uses fate, and I don't know what that means. So.
That is pretty cool. I mean, Prophet, which is based on the prophetess, the only character that gets universally banned by everyone because it's so powerful in the board game. So the Prophet has a broader perspective on good and evil. They see the great tales of history and deeds. They have a kind of mystic connection to the realm, as do priests, for example. But prophets do have insight into details large and small in the immediate or distant future. And so they have deep reserves of this kind of mental and spiritual strength. So when creating a prophet, you get a bunch of different skills. You have mystic spell casting, and that is the same thing actually that Reginald Schoen has, his mystic spellcasting, I believe. Is it actually no? Is it mystic? It's not mystic.
It's nature.
It's nature spellcasting. Nature spellcasting, but mystic spellcasting, which allows you to cast and retain memory of mystic spells. Also, you have the ability known as Hour of Need, which is that you have an uncanny gift for being in the right place at the right time. So when a character that you can see rolls a test, you can use an action to assist them as if you had a relevant skill. Assisting is a particular thing that you can choose as an action during combat, and we'll talk about that when we get to the question of combats. Instead of using that skill, you can use your craft for the assist. So basically, you can help others because you I foresaw that spear would head towards your face or something, right? That type of deal. And then you get to choose between one of two things. Either what no mortal may speak, which means that you receive prophetic visions that are clear in their meaning, but you can't speak of what you learn or communicate it directly through writing. So basically you have to keep this stuff to yourself. I will acknowledge that for a stream game, that's going to be a little harder to deal with because it means that I have to basically send you a bunch of hey, this is what happens, but you can't tell anybody things, which might be more pressure for you. So I'm letting you know about that. The other option is Shrouded Truths, which is that you receive prophetic visions, but instead of them being clear, they are shrouded in mystery and symbolism. You can try to use some tests to kind of make it a little clearer, but it's things like, the forest green conceals a deadly secret. And you're like, what does that mean? Because the forest has lots of secrets. It could mean that there's a deadly enemy, or maybe a deadly creature, but it's not deadly to you because it's actually friendly. It just hates, creatures that try to cut it down or whatever. So Mystic Shrouded Truths would make it easier to be able to share that information with your party. But I don't want to push you in a certain direction. I would just say if you're going to do Prophet, it would be easier to manage Shrouded Truths if you're going to do it. I think the Prophet is a really cool and interesting character. As Nienu said, seeing the future could be a lot of fun in a stream game. And so, yeah. So that's one thought. It is, I'll actually zoom it out so people can see more of the realm. It is, this comes directly from the book, and yeah, they did an amazing job with the art, and this really feels quite right. So, yeah, what do you think, Chai?
I think, were I to go that route, that I would play like a Malkavian. And if you guys have any issue with that, you tell me now, because otherwise I think I'm going to be an Elven Malkavian.
Okay.
But I know some people get super irritated with Malkavians and people who roleplay them. So that's why it's like, if you guys have a problem with that, you tell me.
For folks who don't know, can you explain to chat what a Malkavian is?
A Malkavian is from Vampire the Masquerade, and they are prophetic, kind of, in the way that they can see and manipulate, but that comes with a tinge of madness. And so they have kind of a hard time assimilating and explaining what they are seeing and understanding and all of that. So they're just a little bit unhinged. And some people play a little too unhinged, and then it's no fun. So I'd have to balance the unhingedness.
Right. The only thing I was going to say was, as long as it's not, because manipulating the party is going to get frustrating for party members, I think.
Yeah, no. So I was thinking what you were saying, the Shrouded Truths would be the best way to do it, and to just be like, I don't understand what that means.
Yeah. I think that's fine. I don't know. It's up to the players. For me,
Yeah.
that's fine as a GM if you do it that way.
Yeah, I think that would be the way that I would go with that.
What does the party think?
What does the party think?
Pyron, Saber, Mike, what are your feelings about Malkavian-ish?
My character has wits 1. Go for it.
Yeah. It'd be fun.
I'm like totally fine. I say yes.
And no judgment if someone is not. Like, don't feel pressured into it. It's totally
there's
the way.
no problem. That's why I'm clarifying with everyone instead of just being like, yeah, I want to do this.
Saber, you cool with it? Yes, no?
Yeah, sounds fine to me.
Okay.
I mean, my only experience with Malkavians is from the video game, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so an unhinged elf that sees a future, gold druid that touches people nobody else sees, the world's tiniest swordswoman, and a mystical, magical assassin creature. Perfect. Roll tape. That's what I like to see. Okay.
I love our party already.
It's so great.
So good.
It's going to be so great. All right. So good. So you're going to be an elf prophet. I will come back then to the abilities of the classes in just a moment. But before I do that, I'm going to ask Mike.
Humans! No humans!
No humans. Yeah, that's true. This party never choose. These players never choose humans.
I was very close to
being
picking human
humans.
priest the other day before I went for ghoul.
Oh man, this is cool stuff. So, and hey, what's up, Dragon Spear? Also, the raffle, I think, is going to be coming to an end. If we haven't closed it already, maybe just another minute, and then Lolo, if you don't mind closing it down, that would be great. And then we'll do the last raffle in about an hour or so. This is again for the Talisman Core Rulebook from Pegasus Spiele's awesome new Talisman Adventures fantasy role-playing game, which you are watching character creation right now as we speak. A digital copy of that book. Okay, so Mike, do you have a name for me yet?
Technically, I think my character's name would be Ashflower.
Ashflower.
Yep, all one word.
I love it. Yeah, you're a one-name star, right? You're the
Yes,
you're the Madonna of
it's like
White Walkers.
Cher or Madonna. Yeah.
Okay. So let me switch that up and move it up here.
Again, really sending the message that this is not a hired killer. This is someone who just shepherds people from one world to the next.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just happens to do it in an incredibly efficient fashion.
Super, super efficient. Yeah.
And for some totally random reason, they have to be dead for that.
Nianu says it's
Yes.
good now, but it's missing an REG. We need like Reg Ashflower, right? Like everything is just Reginald something. Okay. Good. We have an Ashflower. Lovely. All right. Yeah, that's a great name. I'm really looking forward to seeing how these characters interact with each other. Okay. Come on. damn you, OBS. All right, good. That takes care of that. Good. All right. Let me lock that in place. Good. Wonderful. Okay. And last thing I will ask, Chai, do you happen to have a name for me? If not, I'll jump to the others, and that's okay, and I'll come back to you with a name.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I like Muriel.
Muriel. Do you
Yeah.
have a last name, or are you also one name star?
Also one name show.
Okay. Muriel, elf prophet. Is
You
Muriel
had a
old
last
or
name,
young,
but
by the
you
way?
can't remember it.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. I was asking, is Muriel old or young?
Young.
Right, I mean, for an
Naive.
elf, young.
Yeah, young, I think.
Okay. Right. Hark at these two good for a last name. Oh, man.
What fancy name generator when I type in dryad names and ent names don't come up with last names?
So for some people in chat already worked this out, I'll say it. My character
Go
Shun
on.
is Dutch for shoe, which makes my character Reg Shoe from
Reg
Discworld.
Red
Famous
Shoe from
undead-
Discworld. Yes.
Undead rights activist.
So we do
Nice.
Discworld. Can we just do constant nothing but Terry Pratchett references? That would be fine with me.
Well,
Like,
as I point out when I'm creating my character, I shepherd the dead from the mortal coil onto the next life. I go around with a scythe. I can talk to spirits that nobody else can see. I am essentially death from the Discworld.
so I wrote that this is how he talks. It's going to be all caps in chat from now on, basically. Hello,
pretty
how
much.
are you?
It's going to be all caps.
Side
You need like
note-
a voice synthesizer just to get that little bit of echo.
Yep, just to actually get that
Oh.
sound. Quick note.
say-
I missed a trick. My familiar should have been a rat.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I have enormous admiration for Pratchett, and I think he's a better writer even than he's given credit for. And I think I actually found Reaper Man to be one of the more moving books I've ever read. It's surprising because you wouldn't think of it, because everyone's like, oh, Pratchett, he's funny. There's a deep well of thoughtfulness about Pratchett, and losing him, especially to early onset Alzheimer's, was particularly cruel, it seems to me. But Pratchett's an incredible writer.
That was, I
but-
think, one of the only times I've genuinely been upset over the death of a famous person.
Yeah,
Yes.
It was
exactly.
when he passed, because his books were just such an important part of my childhood growing up.
It's incredible.
Well,
writer.
the world
And the
definitely
fact
grew a
that I
little
keep
darker because of
referencing
that.
them.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree. He's an incredible writer. My daughter is reading A Hatful of Sky right now as we speak, so it's an incredible writer. Yeah, exactly. He was funny because he thought so deeply about things. That's true. Sometimes people who are the funniest are the ones who have the deepest insight. It's true. All right. So let me jump back up. So now we have our names in place and their peoples, so to speak. So let's jump back up and let's talk about the classes that they chose. And we'll jump up to Pyron for this first, because she chose to be a warrior. A warrior, which means lots of finesse. No, not so much. So the first thing to note, by the way, in the creating of this is that when you create a warrior, you get the following features. So Pyron Jade's character has a strength of 4 and a craft of 3. Now you'll be craft of 3. Now you'll be familiar with that, Chad, if you've played the board game. Strength is, might of arms, and craft is intelligence. But this game breaks it down significantly by giving you a certain number of attribute points, which are given to various attributes within them. So strength breaks down into 3 categories: agility, brawn, and mettle. Craft breaks down into insight, wits, and resolve. Regina, not so good on the wits, not super great on the insight, but definitely not so great on the mettle, great on the resolve, great on the agility, great on the brawn. That's very good in the sort of side of things. So, as you were creating your character, Pyron, I'm curious about as you were thinking about the features you wanted to give your warrior. Do you want to tell the folks about some of your particular, abilities that you were given that you chose from, and things like that a warrior has, that your particular warrior has?
Sure. Oh, it says I'm muted. I'm not muted, right?
You're not. You're
okay.
You're good.
So, as a warrior, all the warriors have heavy armor training, which means my little bumblebee sprite can wear any armor she wants without it impacting her agility at all, which
Right.
is just wonderful, I would like to point out.
Oh yeah.
So this goes for all warriors, but then you have to do these. Choose one from 2 weapon fighting, shield master, and 2-handed master. Shield master is of course, you're really good with a shield. You can block all damage to yourself and anyone next to you, which just didn't seem the thing that Regina Augusta III would be interested in doing.
I just had this image, though, of you blocking a sword with your, like, acorn cap as it's about to, like, cut into the ghoul or something. You're just like, dink! I don't know. It was funny. Anyway, did not make sense.
Yeah. So then there's 2 weapon fightings where you can wield a weapon in each hand as long as the weapon's damage is within a certain range, but you cannot make multiple attacks and stuff like that. So that wasn't really, I couldn't really imagine her like doing that really in that way. But Two-Handed Master would allow me to wield a 2-handed weapon single-handedly, and although it then only does 1d6 damage, and I don't get to use its special features if I do that. That seemed pretty cool. So I decided that was the way to go. I do have a spear, by the way. So that's nice. And if I use this 2-handed weapon with my both hands, I also inflict more damage, and that is wonderfully nice. Then there is so these are like 3 things where you can pick one for the warrior. All the other character classes have the same thing. 3 options, pick one. And then you get 2 options, pick one. Which for the warrior were Mighty Blow and Avenger. Avenger sure is like you can stop an enemy's blade from wounding my companions. I can't do that. I know I can attack. So when an enemy within my reach deals damage to my ally or another character I actually like, I can deal damage to that enemy directly. Mm-hmm. So, but I thought that seems to require a lot of thinking and everything. So I instead went with Mighty Blow, which means I can spend Light Fate to reduce the armor points of my enemy before resolving damage. Meaning, in case of Regina Augusta III, I can actually poke. We didn't think like cleaving through armor as it would with a big character, a troll maybe, but I rather more or less fly in and poke through the armor. And having a heavily armed bumblebee and angry in your breastplate might just be a really bad idea. Yes. So that's it. That's it for the warrior.
Good stuff. Hey, Lone Wolf, what's going on? Thank you for the follows, by the way. We've had 4 or 5 more follows on GOG while we were talking, and then a couple followers on my channel, so thank you. Also, we're over 100 viewers, so thank you. Keep it up. Please spread the word about the awesomeness that this is. Have we closed the raffle now? If not, we should do so before I go on. Let's close that first raffle.
Oh, I can also say that I, of course, as a warrior, I get access to a lot of weapon skills and things like that. So athletics, fortitude, weapon skills. That's the warrior thing. I also can, and I also get like the general skill ride, but without a special focus, because it's always like you're either unskilled, you have the general skill, or you have the skill plus a focus. So you can be not good in a thing, good in a thing, and like really good in a thing.
Really
so that's like how it works in this way. I have to say I actually enjoyed making characters in this system a lot, and I think it's quite accessible. So if you're looking for something new, I can totally recommend this.
I agree with that. It was interesting to put it together. I do think we talked a little bit about aspects of the book that kind of jump you around from place to place, but it does all fit once you kind of get a sense of where things are. So, and just so people are curious, as an exile, Regina Augusta III gets the ability of an agility because beats somebody up who happens to be a cousin of a king, and also gained the survival skill by virtue of her background. She has various skills, which are survival, stealth, athletics, intimidation, yes, fortitude with a focus in endurance, melee with a focus in spears, notice, which is basically like rolling a perception check is basically what notice is. Ride, that should be clear enough, I think. Riding squirrels, no doubt. Throw, again with a focus in spears. And then rocks, actually has 2 focal points, spears and rocks and acorns. So those are the ones that they actually have. Thank you for the subscription, Tiger Monkey 1. Thank you for the Prime sub. We appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome to the DRM Free community. So yes, so those are the skills that we have. In addition, Regina has flight by virtue of being a sprite. has Earth Speaker, which allows her to, thank you again for another follow, Godstaff, allows her to, I think, understand the movements of the Earth, if I'm not mistaken, although I have to look that up again.
I can talk to plants and trees, but I don't always understand their answers.
That's right, plants and trees, that's right. Heavy armor training we've already talked about, and then two-handed master and mighty blow. So good stuff. And the final statistics for Regina Augusta III are strength 4. I'm going to wait on the skills. We'll come back to that. Strength 4, craft 3, life 18. Those are basically hit points. Speed 14, pretty fast. Has a load of 20. I don't fully understand how that works, but okay. And then gold of 9, which, as Pyron pointed out to me when we were doing this yesterday, or 2 days ago, that even makes less sense because it's not like the gold is queued for you particularly, right? Like they're big cold coins. Like I don't, Anyway, she's keeping them somehow. God knows how she's doing that, but somehow. So that is what we're looking at. And I will talk more about skills when we actually get to that point. Moving right along the line down to Saber. Saber, let's talk a little bit about the assassin and what the assassin's abilities are that you ended up... no, not assassin. Druid. I was looking at Mike when I said you. Sorry, Druid. Let's take a look at Druid. And I'm just making you into assassin, Saber. You don't really have a choice in it. You just have to become an assassin.
This is anti-ghoul prejudice.
Exactly. No ghoul could really
It's
be
starting.
a person with assassins. Oh, man. Okay. So, a druid casts nature spells, and the druid has certain features and abilities. So let's talk about the ones that you chose. You have nature spell casting. We'll come back to spells in a little bit. But maybe talk a little bit about Life of the Realm, and then about the one you chose between Animal Fellowship and Animal Features.
Yes, so Life of the Realm you get by default for being a druid, and it's a very, very nice ability. If I roll a standard success or better in any test at all, I can spend one of my spell points and regain 1d3 plus 1 of my life. If I'm in a forest, I roll 1d6 and gain my resolve, and my resolve is one of my my best stat at 5. So that potentially gives me 11 heal if I roll lucky, which is most of my life because my life score is 15. I'm a bit squishy. I'm a desiccated corpse. I can't help it. I was born this way.
Not as well preserved as one might be. So that's Life of the Realm. And also it should be point out that, so yes, you're able to regain life of yourself, but still, because of the squishiness, it helps that you have this ability. And then you get to choose between Animal Fellowship and Animal Features. What did you choose and why?
So I chose Animal Features over Animal Fellowship because I'm a city ghoul. I do have my little graveyard just outside the city, but, being a ghoul, animals tend to be a bit mistrustful because, much like people, they think I'm not quite natural.
Anti-ghoul prejudice.
I was born this way. I didn't choose it. I wasn't murdered and raised by necromancy. My mummy and daddy loved each other very much, just like everybody else is. So I went with Animal Features because I found on my studies that I could tap it into the mystical energies and take on aspects of animals that I've studied. For example, hanging around with my good friend Boots for so long, I found that he could enhance my sense of smell at times, so I could smell things that others could not. Especially useful when you work in a funeral home, which mostly smells of dead things.
Yes, so Animal Features was what it is. The transformation takes a full action, and it uses a light fate, and you get to choose one of these things that was mentioned. Claws, a thick hide or carapace, gills. I don't know how often you're going to need to use this, but who knows.
We discussed that one because it's not really clear.
Right, it's not, again, and you also have to have seen and studied this kind of creature. So gills were a little up in the air about. Sprinting legs, I think definitely that means your speed increases, and then keen senses, you gain a bonus die on notice tests. You can make a decision about one of those that you want to do. So Animal Features is the ability that you possess. And in addition to that, we have Animal Features. You also have Psychic skills. You have Animal with a focus on banishing, useful in your field of work.
Yep, pesky spirits. Sometimes they don't want to go peacefully.
Exactly. You have Animal Handling with a focus on controlling. What you have healing with a focus on disease? Just curious.
That's right, yes, because when I was studying for a druid, I saw many things that can turn people interesting skin colors that aren't normal for their races, or cause parts to bloat up. And over the course of, also putting them in the ground afterwards, I got curious. I got time on my hands, so I dove deeper, bought medical books, talked to doctors, because sometimes they would come and drop a corpse off, and we'd be like, what's happened here? Things like that.
So it came very naturally over the course of a long period of time. It was very organic, or organically rotting, one way or other. Congratulations, Cold Echo, for winning the first raffle. Cold Echo, if you could do me a favor, you can either PM me on Twitch, or you can drop a line to one of the mods and just give them your email address. And then if you can they will send it to me, or you will send it to me directly. And then I will get that email address over to Pegasus Spiele, and they will send you in the next couple of days a digital copy of the Talisman rulebook that we are all playing from. So congratulations. We have one more of these to give away, which we will do in the next hour, but we're not going to do that right now. But congratulations for the winning of that. And thank you for running the raffle, Lolo and Kilgore, etc., etc. Okay, so so that was healing, focus disease, lore with a focus on ancestries. Makes sense, really into genealogy, presumably.
Yep.
I remember when your father came through here.
Yes, I put him round here somewhere. Let me find the spot.
Just put him right underneath. Spell casting with a focus on nature makes sense. Survival, decipher, notice, life of the realm, and animal features we've already talked about. Now to come back to spell casting. Oh, actually, wait. One thing quickly. You have a background of Soul Keeper, Shepherd of the Dead.
Yes.
You want to explain what what does that mean to have a background of Soul Keeper, Shepherd of the Dead?
So Soul Keeper is one of the 3 backgrounds a ghoul can have. The other being more or less, you think you're secretly trying to help prepare an undead army, which didn't really fit with the character or the alignment. The others was keep your head down and not get noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other was Soul Keeper, which fitted with my background as a graveyard keeper. So Soul Keepers believe it is their duty to help souls move on after they have died. This gives them a bonus to their lore skill and to their resolve, because, if a life force is stubborn enough to stick with its body after dead, you've got to be prepared to stick at it to convince it that it's time to move on.
Yep.
It also enables me to have my spirit familiar. And in non-violent encounters with spirits or other undead, they react slightly friendlier to me than they would to other entities.
Right, which absolutely could be useful. In fact, might even be useful in this adventure that's going to be coming up. So, could be very useful.
On top of that, I've got Spirit Sense and Shepherds of the Dead. So Spirit Sense lets me sense the presence of spirits within 10 meters, and then Shepherds of the Dead lets me actually talk with them, even if they're invisible to everyone else. So there's quite a few chances for the party to just see me talking to someone that no one else can see.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see which of the party members is considered the most insane.
That's pretty much. So Spirit Sense is there. And then the last thing I just wanted to have you mention, we'll talk about this when we get there, but for spells, which spells did you choose?
I went with Gust of Wind, which is a sort of crowd control spell, which can, particularly with their weaker creatures, can summon sort of a mini tornado to suck up small creatures and items and do a bit of damage to them. I also picked that as my enduring spell. I don't know if you want to get into that right now or not.
We can't. No, we can. No, it's okay. I just want to know the basics of it right
That's
now.
fine. I went with Lightning Bolt. Very useful for chasing away grave robbers. Lightning bolt up the arse.
They're shocked. Shocked by your presence.
And I went with Shatter, which is a very useful ability when you've got a stubborn rock in the way of the grave you're digging.
Ah, very nice. So these are all very useful abilities, I think, for a man in your position, as it were. So cool. So we have those skills. Darksaber, because of the nature of his class and his ancestry, has a strength of 2, and broke that down attribute point wise into 2 brawn, 1 agility, and 1 metal. A craft of 5, with 2 insight, 4 wits, and 4 resolve. Very strong on the resolve, very strong on the smart.
It's 5 resolve because when I was creating it, I forgot to add my bonus from Soul Keeper.
Okay, 5 resolve. Life of 14, little squishy as we said. Speed of 11, ghouls not
Life's
known
15
for being...
because of the extra resolve.
Well, sorry, say again?
Life's 15 because the extra 1
Yeah,
resolve.
because the extra resolve, right. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Life
it uses
15.
resolve or meta.
Still squishy, but speed 11, not known for incredible, rate of movement as a ghoul.
Gamble a bit, but I get there.
And then load of 10, which means, for the record, that the ghoul, which is 4 times the size of the sprite, carries half as much. I just want to be clear about how that works. Like, if the ghoul's having a hard time, you could just be like, here, Regina, if you wouldn't mind, and just like throw a shield over her head, and somehow she can carry that, because game logic. So it can work. It can fit. Okay. So we've got strength 2, craft 5, life 15, speed 11, low 10. Okay, cool. All right, that's going to bring us down then to the folks who have not yet done this. And that is going to bring us to... Not there. My notes. Okay. That's going to bring us to Peripheral Mike. Okay.
Hi.
Peripheral Mike. Hi. Peripheral Mike, who is going to be a Laywalker assassin. And of course, they'll be sending me their sheets as well. There are fillable PDF sheets that come with the core book, by the way, in case people are curious. And this is available, again, right now. Even if you don't win one of the raffled copies today, this is available right now on DriveThruRPG, which is also where all the adventures are going to be getting posted. And it will be released in physical form sometime next month, is the plan. Okay, so a Laywalker assassin. And so now we talk a little bit about strength and all that kind of stuff. So first we go to the class to get the basics. The basics of your class... There we go. Basics of your class are you have a strength of 3 to begin with.
Yeah. So I fill that in on the character sheet, correct?
Yes. And then, yes, you do. And then a craft of 3.
Excellent.
Now we need to check and make sure to see whether the Laywalker affects that at all. So let me go up and check whether Laywalker affects the assassin ability.
Have a quick look at Laywalker. We'll just scroll to that bit. Laywalker. Laywalker. Culture, perspective, character modifiers. Increase the maximum for wits or insight to 7.
Okay.
Bonus skill, gain the psychic or lore skill, and the restrictions are due to a lack of worldly connections. Laywalkers cannot begin with more than 1 gold. Okay.
Terrible prejudice of of the way these things work.
I need not for earthly materials.
Okay, actually, while we're down here, we might as well get these abilities out of the way. So let's talk about those 2 skills. When we jump down to skills, which again, I'm on my PDF book, so bear with me a little bit.
I have already been doing this. If
Okay.
you want me to choose either psychic or lore.
Yes,
so essentially,
please.
lore is a knowledge gained through ancestry of natural materials around me, and psychic is the ability to perform psychic attacks on people and also defend myself psychically. I think psychic is going to be more thematically on brand.
Okay.
And it says psychic represents your ability to engage in psychic combat, as well as performing other acts of a psychic nature. Wits is used when making a psychic attack, but insight is used when making a defense attack.
Yeah, so that's good. So we will go with psychic then. And then we have backgrounds, which will also have an effect. We have Gatekeeper, which allows you to increases your resolve and allows you to open a normally locked gate or door by getting a standard success instead of rolling. Only opens locks on the door, doesn't disable magical or non-magical traps. There's Wayfinder, which is +1 to wits. You gain the survival skill, and in all terrains and locations, when you would make a guide test, you could choose to get a standard success instead of rolling if you wish. Or Line Runner, which is +1 insight. That means you gain the spell casting skill, and instead of 1 soul rune spell, see below, you begin with 2. So basically, it's your choice as to which of those will be useful. I'll tell you up front that obviously spellcasting is good, but I would not sleep on the making a guide test. You can get a standard success instead of rolling. Like that could be also really useful as well. So don't sleep on that as an idea.
That's very true. I like the idea of having 2 soul rune spells instead of 1. So I like the idea of being a line runner, which gives me +1 insight and gain me spellcasting skill. So instead of 1 soul rune spell, I begin with 2. The second soul rune can be a second version of the same spell or a different spell.
Okay. So, all right. So we're going to go with line runner, which means, let's see. So background. Okay. So, background is line runner, which means that you have spell casting.
Yes.
And you have +1 insight, which we'll remember when we come back to the insight question. So now you also have, of course, this soul rune ability.
Yes.
And you have
I've actually
2 of
already
those.
chosen my soul rune abilities. Okay. Yes. So I really like the idea of Leyline Walker, which means I can spend, I don't know what these little symbols mean. In the rule book,
those are
it's
light
a small
fate.
white dot.
Those are light fate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I can spend, I'm presuming, 3 light fate to create a portal anchor. This anchor lasts until the next new moon. As long as the portal anchor is active, you can teleport to the anchor as a full action by spending 1 light fate. And you can bring another person with you for each additional light fate spent. But each person who travels with you must be willing, unless you've created another portal anchor at your point of origin. You cannot return to the original location. You can have a number of active portal anchors equal to half of your craft rounded down.
Which means right now you could have 1, which would let you get back
Yes.
to where you want to go, but doesn't bring you back. You know, it's not a town portal in Diablo. You can't then get back to
No.
where you originally started.
Very true.
You'll have to think about that.
Yes.
But
I really like that ability.
That's,
so.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so Leyline Walker. And then you have these 2 soul rune spells. Now, the nice thing in this situation is that you can basically choose either an arcane, mystic, or nature spell. Now, the spell is basic and common. So when you go down and you look at the spells down there, Mike, which I'll give you the chance to go do, when you go down and look at those spells, you're going to be choosing from the basic and common spells. It lists all the way up to rare, but you won't be able to get those because not common. Spells, by the way, can be found in various ways throughout the world. You can find teachers who will teach them to you. They can be found on scrolls. People who have a particular skill, like spellcasting, for example, or such like, can have what's known as a spell book, but it's not necessarily the traditional book. In fact, sometimes it could be just like a magical piece of bark that seems to always have enough room to fit everything you draw on it or carve onto it or whatever the case may be. But that's where you would put more permanent spells beyond the ones that you already know. Now, the spells that are on your body, the soul rune, stuff that's on your body, you don't have to worry about getting a book for that. But anything else coming down the line as your spell casting improved, if you wish to use it, that would be something that you would be putting not on your body, but putting on some equivalent spell book. And that also accounts, that's the same thing with you, by the way, Saber. You have to decide what you want to function as your spell book. Mechanically, it's the same thing, but it's something to kind of think about because those are the spells that you learn over the course of time. If you have a scroll, anybody basically can use a scroll, but once the spell is used off of the scroll, it's gone. The only way to save a spell in a scroll is to inscribe it to a spell book, whatever that is.
So, if I may ask, so I didn't realize that I could get arcane spells with my character. So, is this just selecting from page? Sorry to be mechanical about this for anybody watching who doesn't have the book in front of them. From page 122, I'm looking at an arcane spell list. Is this correct?
Yes, that's right. And you're looking for the basic common ones. So things like Acquisition,
Basic
Alchemy,
common.
Barrier, Blade Sharp, Blink, those ones. Yeah.
Do you mind if I pick this, just having a look through the actual spells? Do I have to pick this right this second?
Oh, no. Go right ahead. That's fine.
Okay,
No problem.
Cool.
But before you do
So-
that, let's take a look at the other skills, though.
Yes, absolutely.
So
one thing I was going to mention was the Leyline Walker allows me to have 2 soul rune spells, which can be separate spells.
Yep.
2 soul rune spells.
Yep.
I like the idea of magic nature, which you possess a number of a number of spell points equal to half of your craft, rounded down, so that would be 1 at the moment. You may grant these spell points to other spellcasters at will, or after you attack and deal damage, you can use each one to add 1d6 of psychic damage. If you have a class that has a spellcasting feature, you can use the spell points to cast spells as normal. I quite like the fact that that would lend benefit not only to the psychic ability of my character, but also to the spellcasting ability of some of the other party members as well. I mean, primarily, I think my character would probably be like, no, I'm going to use it just for more psychic damage because that's kind of my jam. But I think in a group dynamic, he's probably going to go, oh, I can also do this as well.
So remember, you have to choose one of either that or Leyline Walker or Magic Sense. So you have to choose one of those. So if you want to be Leyline Walker,
I thought Line Runner said gain the spellcasting skill. Instead of 1 soul rune spell, you begin with 2.
Yep, no, that's correct. That the Line Runner thing is fine, but under special abilities, which is what you were just looking at in terms of magic nature, that is one of the 3 that you choose between that, Magic Sense, and Leyline Walker. So
I see. Yeah. I must be misunderstood.
So you can still have Line Runner and also do one of these 3, but you can't have Magic Nature and Leyline Walker.
Oh, I see. I thought the Leyline Walker and Magic Nature were both soul rune spells.
Nope.
I see. My apologies. Bear with me. I'm on the wrong page. So choose... So what are soul rune spells then?
So soul rune spells, that's what you're looking at for these spells. So at the list of spells. Soul rune means that you basically have 2 spells available to you. Well, 1, but you in your case have 2 that are inscribed on your body as like tattoos.
Yep.
And they can be any spell that's listed in the book that is basic and common. And it can be an arcane or mystic or nature spell.
I see.
So these things, 3 things you were looking at are not spells. Those 3 things are abilities separate from soul rune. And you get soul rune regardless.
Now. There we go. It takes me a little while, but
that's totally fine.
Okay, so I get essentially, because of Line Runner, I get 2 spells.
Right.
But I also get the special ability of either Leyline Walker, Magic Sense, or Magic Nature.
Magic Nature, right.
Excellent. So Leyline Walker will be my special ability.
Okay.
If you're okay with me sorting out my spells, presumably just the arcane common basic ones.
Right. And that one you can do at a later point. That's totally fine. But what I do want us to do...
I can pick 2 of those, yes?
I'm sorry?
I can pick 2 of those,
pick 2
yes?
of them, yep. That's right.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, what you do want me to do?
What I would like us to do, though, is to figure out skills. And I'm going to drop down to Chai next.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean only drop down, not in our hearts or anything like that. I just mean, and actually on the column. Okay, so if we go down to the assassin, we will see the skills that you have. So first of all, you have a strength of 3, a craft of 3. You have a life of 12, although that's going to go higher in a minute, as you'll see. Now, for skills, this is what you get. So this is these are the assassin-specific ones. You get athletics. I don't think I should have to describe that. You get deception. Also should not have to describe that, I think. You get melee. Also probably don't have to do that. Notice, that is perception, so that's makes sense. Sleight of hand, which is like, pickpocketing, making things disappear, that sort of thing. And everyone will be shocked here, stealth. Yes, amazingly, assassins focus a lot on stealth. You also get your choice of either throw. This is a decision that Pyron actually had to make when she was putting together Regina. Either throw or missile weapon. So missile weapon is, bow, crossbow, sling, that kind of thing. Throw is literally like thrown daggers or, I guess, spears or rocks or, in the sprite's case, acorns. It would be funny if you're the only 2 people in the realm who have both specialized in acorn throwing. And you're just like, oh, really? I've learned that my latest Acorns Are Us magazine. I usually. But anyway.
Acorn trick shots.
Missile weapon, poisoned blow darts.
Yeah, I was thinking missile weapon. I'm not gonna lie, missile weapon does sound very fancy. It sounds a lot fancier than my normal character, so I think missile weapon on that one.
Okay, missile weapon. And now we get what are known as focuses. Now, A focus, as we said, is a further specialization in a given skill. And so in stealth, you have a focus. This is not surprising. And then a focus in sleight of hand or melee. So let's go down to stealth, and we will talk about what that looks like. So this is stealth under skills, which is under...
Bear with me. Scrolling.
Yeah, no problem. I'm the same, pretty much.
Yep. Fill the air while we scroll through this PDF. Here we go. Skills. No. Oh no, that's
stealth skill
Game
is
Master's
55.
Guide. Oh, excellent, thank you.
Page 55. So stealth. Your focus in stealth is basically where you're most pleased to do it. You can be focused on stealth in the city, in the ruins, in towns and villages, underground, or the wilderness.
I think the wilderness is probably going to be.
I thought that made sense. Yeah.
The most thematically on point. So that would be stealth focus in wilderness.
Right, and what that basically means is that if you're focused in it, and I'm asking you to make a stealth check in one of those areas, you'll be able to add an additional 2 to that roll. But we'll talk about that when we actually get to playing and those checks happen.
Absolutely.
So we have stealth,
absolutely.
and then we have a decision to make about whether you want a focus in sleight of hand, or I don't remember what the other one was. Sleight of hand or something. I'll tell you sleight of hand first. Focuses is, so it's your ability to misdirect, perform small feats of legerdemain, conceal small items with your hands and body, place objects or remove them from another person without them being aware. Focuses can be in distraction, like look over there. You know, think Princess Bride, Vicini. What in the world can that be? You know, that thing. Magic tricks, should be self-explanatory, or pickpocket, also self-explanatory. So those are the focal points of sleight of hand. And then the other one that you choose from is either sleight of hand or... Oh, I almost got it. Wait a second. Sleight of hand. Come on. Stupid thing. Not that. Up here. Okay. So sleight of hand or... There we go. Or melee. And the melee ones... Okay, the melee one, so either sleight of hand or melee, and the melee focus would be basically in combat you're more effective with these things. So barehanded, large blades, large blunt, like warhammers, medium blades, so large blade would be like a great sword or something like that, right? Or maybe even like a halberd. Large blunt would be like a warhammer, medium blade is like a sword, a medium blunt would be like a mace, small blades would be like a dagger, and then spears. And what Regina chose, what Pyron chose for Regina was spears. And that basically means that you get you would focus in one of those, and that would give you additional benefits in melee combat.
Okay. I like the idea of melee, I'm not gonna lie, because I think if we get into a fight, I think me going in with a weapon is probably going to be better than me going in with the ability to do sleight of hand. I do like the idea.
I'm going to prepare to kill you. Give me 2 weeks, and I'll be back.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just going to go meditate. I'm just prepared to kill you. But the ability to do magic tricks and distraction and pickpocket, I mean, one of those would be quite useful for role playing. However, I think I'm probably going to go with melee small blades.
Okay, so melee focus. Small blades, yeah, that makes sense. See, Pegasus Spielo, we're not just doing things to be goofy characters. They're also figuring out the details about how these things work. Okay, so good. That is good for that. And then the last thing to note, so we have those skills placed down, I think, for this. You also get 2 special abilities. Your special abilities, which are common to all assassins, is, first of all, treachery. So you can conceal your intentions in combat. That means you get a bonus die when you're making a deception check. And when you attack with a weapon that deals either 1d3 or 1d6 base damage, which is a fancy way of saying daggers or stilettos, like things like that kind of weapon, you can spend a light fate to deal 2 additional damage per level in a situation where your target is surprised, immobile, or friendly towards you. So if they're just like, you're such a, like that type of thing,
Yeah.
that'd be something you could do. So one of your abilities then is treachery.
Mm-hmm.
And your second special ability.
So I gain that automatically, correct?
Yes, automatically. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Thank
And
you.
you also gain preparation, which is available, which happens for all assassins. And what this means is that the first time you make an attack against an enemy that you've studied and prepared to kill, you set aside one die, which is not a Kismet die. After you've rolled the rest of the dice, you can set the die that you put aside to any number that you want. So this is useful, especially if you happen to know, like, kind of a boss fight prep, right? Like if you know I've got to take out this evil priest or something, I can set up to do that by preparing, because it usually takes a number of hours equal to 2d6 minus your wits with a minimum of 1 hour. And you need to be either able to observe the target directly or gain information from someone who has. So preparation is not like Hunter's Mark where you go, or like Favorite Quarry, where you just choose something and then like 3 seconds later you choose something else. You really need to have prepared to kill a particular character.
I was kind of hoping it would just be like, I want to kill that one.
Yeah, nope, not so much. So there's that.
No, okay.
And then the last thing you need to decide on skills, and then you can deal with spells, and I'm going to come down to Chai, is Path of Blood or Unerring Aim. Path of Blood basically means, again, you can spend, when you reduce an enemy to 0, you can spend Light Fate to make an attack against another enemy whose threat is less than or equal to your initial target. So if you're fighting, 3 skeletons, and you destroy one skeleton, you can immediately attack another skeleton by spending a Light Fate. So it's kind of like almost cleave, except it doesn't specify that it has to be next to each other. So you could like hit the knife, turn, flip a knife towards the other thing. Like it could be badass like that. So you could do that. That's Path of Blood. Or you could choose Unerring Aim, which is the one where it's like you can't be stopped from getting to someone on the first attack. Like if there's someone that you're attacking as the highest threat of all hostiles you can see, you can spend Light Fate to ignore terrain effects between you and your targets, plus other enemies can't block you. So if you've got some guy who's just like, my men will take care of you, you could be like, you're wrong. Like that kind of thing. Like, I'm Batman. Like you could do that if you want. Also, you're required by law to say, I'm Batman every time you do that.
Yes, absolutely.
So anyway.
I think Unerring Aim is going to be the most useful on that one.
I have to admit, it sounds more awesome to me too. But
yes, absolutely. I'm probably only going to use it once, but that one time I use it, and if I pull this off,
it will be unerring. Oh, you have to say, I'm Bat Saber. Now, but it's not Bat Saber because I'm Bat Mike. You could do Bat Saber, and then I'd have to pay a trademark royalty to Saber. Okay.
Yeah.
Unerring Aim. Okay, cool.
Don't worry, Saber. I got you.
All right. Now the last thing.
Excess payment in Light Fate.
So I'm going to let you figure out your spells. I'm going to drop down to Chai,
Yes,
and then the last things we need to do are to figure out your attribute points for both you and Chai. It looks like we're going to be clear of this by 6:30, which will give us about 25 minutes to start the adventure, which is okay. I figured we'd be we're spending a little more time on character creation, but I think this is okay because this is new to everybody. And I hope, Chad, it seems like the numbers have been pretty good, so it sounds like everyone's having a good time so far. For those of you who've just come in and are like, what is this? New game, what's this? You are watching... You are watching Talisman Adventures, fantasy role-playing game. This is the premiere of a mini campaign being hosted, at least in session 1, although I hope also in future, on GOG.com, starring the amazing crew that you see before you of Pyron J, Darksaber 2K, Peripheral Mike, and Tasty Chai. This is the crew that I DM for Storm King's Thunder once a month on this channel, but we are doing a Talisman Adventures campaign on here as well, and this is sponsored as well by Pegasus Spiele, the makers of this game. We have one more giveaway to do, which we'll do in about 20-25 minutes or so. Another giveaway of a second core rulebook for this game. It is coming out in print next month. There are going to be supplements and all these other things. Also, don't miss the discount on Nomad's incredible digital version of the Talisman board game. There are discounts on this now thanks to the largesse of GOG.com, and you can check that out by clicking the command, which is somewhere that I'm sure one of the mods know that's there. 2 things. What's up, Live Soon? So yes. Oh, there it is right there under game, which was, so non-intuitive game. You can go right there, and that is a sale on digital board game and all the DLCs. So that's the deal with that. Cool. All right. With that said, we are good with Mike. So once we figure out, Mike, the your metal and all that, then we'll come up with what your life and your load is. That stuff comes together pretty quickly, and your speed. So I'm going to leave those blank for the moment. And your homework is to figure out spells while I talk to Chai. Okay. Let's see. Chai, I see, is here, is present. And so...
For the moment.
For the moment. No, I know. I will try to move quickly. All right. So, Chai, you are playing, again, Muriel, who is an elf prophet. 1 second. I am having my ears blown out by forest music. There we go.
By excellent forest music by Greenforge Studios, no less.
Absolutely. Greenforge Studios, which is responsible also for the music in this introduction video. You can find them at greenforgestudio.com. Thanks to them for sponsoring us, too. Okay, so let us talk about the elf's abilities, first of all, which I think we talked about some already, but just in case. All right, I just need to find... Do you have the page for the elf by chance, Chai?
58.
Thank you. It's PDF. Okay. 58. It's not the PDF. It's my Adobe Acrobat that isn't doing things. Okay. So, you have a maximum cap. You don't have to worry about that yet. Because you won't be hitting the maximum cap now, I don't think. But we'll keep that in mind. Because you could... Well, no, I shouldn't say that. You might choose that when you're picking attributes, that you could increase your attributes even higher than normal because of your elf heritage. But, as a bonus skill, you will have... And let's, first of all, we'll figure out strength and life and all that kind of good stuff in just a minute. But for skills, we know that you are going to have the bonus skill of either missile weapon or survival. Now, we've talked already a little bit. I mean, I think missile weapon is probably fairly self-explanatory about what that means. But a survival skill... which is, of course, not available. There it is. So survival skill basically reflects your ability to survive in the wilderness. It is useful when used to gather roots and berries, to build a fire, to find or create a safe place to sleep, or anything else related to survival. Sometimes it could even apply in the city when you're living on the streets. So that is one possibility. Another possibility would be... I'm sorry, what page for the elf again? Sorry,
Elf is 58.
58. Okay, sorry about that. So yes,
Okay.
So you could choose either missile weapon or the survival skill, and then we'll talk about. Then we'll go to your class, but I wanted to figure that out first.
I think survival.
Okay. Survival is definitely a useful one.
Yeah. I might be a little bit biased because I was for a time playing Out of the Abyss with my husband, and I was like, survival! We need survival!
Yeah. It's true! You
Yeah.
absolutely did. That's funny.
Yep.
It is very, very true. Okay. Cool. All right. Yes, and thank you for that in Zoom chat. That's very helpful, actually. Okay. So here we go. Now we talk about profits. So here's what you've got for those things. You start with a strength of 2 and a craft of 4. As I said, those will get broken down further, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Your life is going to be 9 plus your metal of resolve, and then plus 1 per level. So you are going to have a minimum of 10 life, but then we have to see what your metal of resolve is. So we'll wait on that before we fill that in. And this is what it gives you. You have the following skills. You have deception. You have empathy. Empathy basically is the equivalent of insight in D&D. It allows you to kind of see into a person's soul, as it were. And when they're like, I think this, you're like, I don't know if you do, really. That type of thing. Empathy. Investigation, which is very similar to what it is when it's used in D&D. Lore, that should be also fairly obvious, as is persuasion, I think. And, of course, spell casting. Spell casting focus is mystic, because that is where you get your spells from. You are a mystic spellcaster. And you get your choice of decipher or psychic. Now, this is going to be interesting because psychic combat is... psychic stuff is very useful in multiple ways. For one thing, it ignores armor. For a second thing, it allows you to do stuff like Decipher, it allows you to sometimes get a greater insight into someone's personality or whatever, along with empathy. But I am going to not suggest that you not forget about Decipher, which of course I can't find. Skills. Don't tell me you found it already. PDF, you're wrong. There we go, I found it. So Decipher basically allows you to read ancient languages, unravel ciphers, and figure out a code. It can also be used to answer riddles, and you can further focus within it, if you wish, in codes, languages, or riddles. So Decipher feels like very on brand for the Prophet, but I will fully admit that Psychic is definitely powerful because it represents your ability to engage in psychic combat and perform other acts of a psychic nature. So either one of these would be good. And it just depends on what grabs you. Oh no.
Baby. Okay. I'm liking Decipher.
Okay. Oh, poor baby. Okay, Decipher. Spellcasting. Decipher. Okay. And then you will get a focus. We talked about the focus in spellcasting. You get one other focus, which is either in deception or persuasion. Deception, the focuses in deception are in bluffing, which should be obvious, confusing people, or fast talking. So that is the deception focal point. Or you could choose it in persuasion, which is debate, fast talk, interrogation, or negotiation. So it really comes down to whether you think you're more likely to be persuading people as opposed to deceiving them. And if so, which of those persuasive, things you think you'd be most likely to use.
No, I'm actually really abysmal at trying to lie or deceive. So I'm going to go with persuasion.
Okay. Do we have a focal point then in persuasion? So debate, fast talk, interrogation, or negotiation? Interrogation, should be pretty obvious. I think negotiation back and forth. Fast talk is like, no, it wasn't me. It was the other guy, the guy that went down the street right over there. And then debate, which is basically like, a formal argument. Also near and dear to my heart. But
I love debate. So let's do debate.
Same. Okay. So we are going to say persuasion with a focus in debate. Lovely. Cool. All right, we have got those down. We got persuasion. We got okay, good. So now we can jump right back up to to Prophet. Okay, so we've got that out of the way. Spellcasting, I'm going to let you decide your spells. I will tell you that you will have 3 mystic spells to begin with that are committed to memory and that are recorded in your sacred scrolls. Important to note that it's a little confusing here. For you, your sacred scrolls are the equivalent of your spell book. So if you find a scroll in a graveyard and you cast the spell on it, the scroll disappears and is unusable. With you, if you cast your own spell, it just means you need to memorize it again before you cast it. So your scrolls are like the equivalent of your spell book, basically. So I'm going to ask you, after I'm done with you here in just a moment, to start looking at mystic spells and deciding which one that you have. And you're going to be looking for basic and common mystic spells. And again, that list of spells, just like Mike's looking at for his, has basic and common. So you can find those spells that are right there. Okay. So you have Mystic Spellcasting, you'll figure that out. You also have Hour of Need, which, as I said, allows you to assist a companion as if you had a relevant skill, even if you don't have that skill. And instead of using a skill, you use your craft for the assist. So it's like, if only I knew something about the finer points of basket weaving, and you're like, perhaps this basket would help you because you had somehow foreseen that basket weaving would be needed. Something like that. So that's Hour of Need, and everyone gets that. Then you have to choose one of the following abilities. You have a choice of one of 2. Oh, we talked about this. Shrouded Truths. You're doing Shrouded Truths, right? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. So
if nothing else, for your own sake.
I appreciate that. Okay. And let's see. Abilities. Special abilities. abilities is okay. Let's see, Mystic spell casting. Talisman is a different type of PMP, Crow people. The completely new system that was just recently released in the last month or so. Mystic spellcasting, Hour of Need, and Shrouded Truths. Okay. Let's see. Also, I do want to point out, by the way, we didn't talk about this, Chai, but in Shrouded Truths, besides receiving prophetic visions that I will initiate on occasion, you also can spend Light Fate and an hour, or Light Fate and 2 spell points, to witness a prophetic vision to answer an open-ended question. So if there was something like, you must find the sword of the ancients, but you have no idea where that is, you could use that to try to find it, and it would be something like, it rests in the heart of the world. And then you would be like, okay, well, what's the heart of the land that I live in? Or it might be, it is green with envy. I mean, these are terrible. I'll come up with better ones, but you get the idea. Like, the idea is that you can ask something rather than just waiting for me to be like, guess what? You can also actively trigger it.
Right, I saw that, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's I think is actually super useful. Okay, and I think that's the only thing we need to know about that. I believe so. It's just a matter of those spells. So while you're doing spells, I'm going to jump up to Mike to deal with attributes, and then I'm going to jump back down to you to deal with attributes, and then we'll be ready to go. And I appreciate Pyron and Saber's patience throughout this, but this is
thank you for that.
Super helpful. And
It's wonderful. I absolutely enjoy this. It's kind of great to seeing your characters come to life, because we didn't have that for D&D. So I'm happy about this.
Okay, good. It's actually forming together. Good. I'm glad. Okay, so let me come up to you, Mike. So when we do attributes here, and I will just quickly go to that page that I totally know where it is. I don't have to scroll down and find it and then look for it. And
well, I'm currently on the spells page, and I don't really want to scroll away from it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I will do it so that you do not have to.
Awesome,
I will suffer that you may not have to.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks.
God. I think it's because it's
The
zoomed in a
things
little
he does for us.
little bit, but like it takes a little while to load. I'm like, come on, man. All right. Okay, attributes. Yes, 10 and 49. Right. That's the glossary. I don't need that. Thanks, game. 49. There we go. All right. Attributes. So, these numbers are an important point of the game. Yes, I know that. Thank you for telling me. Oh, I know what that is. Okay, so it's under, right. Scroll down this way. Yeah,
It's really chilling to this music, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I know. It's
This
like
is
super.
This is some chill music as
Super
Chai
chill.
gets punched in the face by her child.
She's like, and then this.
Yeah. Baby
I remember that age when like babies want to like grab all the things in your face and just hook onto your nostrils and your eyelids and don't let go.
Yep.
Squishy bit in your eye.
That's fascinating. Like, no. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to assign attributes. Now, I should have asked this before, actually, just to be clear. We do have to choose alignment. Now, in this game, there are only 3 alignments. We've got good, neutral, and evil. You all know my general feeling about evil, but I'll, entertain possibilities of differences. But the assassin, I haven't checked, but I'm pretty confident the assassin can't be good. So I'm guessing that the assassin has probably got to be neutral, although I guess I should confirm. But
I believe the assassin needs to be neutral or evil, but not necessarily all assassins are evil.
That's
Some
correct.
are just in it for political gain.
Exactly. So that would make the case. So I'm going to assume, Mike, that means that you're a neutral.
Correct.
Is that fair? Okay.
Correct, yes.
Pyron, are you a good Sprite Warrior, a neutral Sprite Warrior, an evil Sprite Warrior?
Neutral Sprite Warrior. I'm not going to play as a good character again for a long, long time.
Okay. Saber, you have to be at least neutral, and I think that's what we said you were.
Yeah, neutral, mostly indifferent. Meat goes in the ground, spirit goes the other way.
Chai, are we looking at neutral, good, or evil? I think would be rough, like I said, but neutral.
I'm thinking good.
Okay. A good elf prophet. Okay. Notice
Evil
not
prophet, you
not
just give
average,
people
by the
opposite
way.
advice all the time.
Yeah.
There's a deadly
Yeah.
trap down the left route. Okay, you're going left.
Yep.
And I like the idea, and notice not average. She's a good elf prophet. She's good, like that's, you have the confidence, you got the tools, you got the talent. All right, so we fixed the alignment. Good. Now we get to attributes and aspects. So Mike, what you're going to do is for each of your skills. So you start and you have a strength of 3. So you're going to multiply that by 2. Sorry, not the case. You're going to choose one of strength or craft, and you're going to add a point to that attribute. Now, we worked out the other day that this is actually permanent, that you're adding that point. So you get to decide, Mike, whether you would prefer to have a 4 strength or a 4 craft starting out.
4 craft.
Okay, that's what I would have figured.
I'll have
Thank
a
you also
4
for the
craft.
follow on GOG. Okay, so you have a 4 craft. Now what you're going to do is you're going to multiply your strength by 2, and that's the number of attribute points that you have. So you have 6 points, and you have to divide those points between brawn, agility, and metal. Now, to be clear about what each of those are...
Thank you. That was my next question, sir.
Yep. I think I went the wrong way. So...
And my additional question would be, what is insight, wits, and resolve? But I'm sure we'll get to that in a moment.
We will. Brawn represents your physical might and vigor, so it defines your ability to lift things, break things, inflict damage. A character with high rating in brawn is often bulkier and more muscular than a character with a low rating. Apparently, Regina never skipped leg day or arm day. Like, Regina was always, in there, pushing up the pine cones and the whole thing, like all the time.
Pine trees.
Pine trees, that's true. So brawn is often used with athletics or throw checks, and obviously it's used with melee tests and melee combats. That's brawn. Agility is basically like dexterity, your ability to, stealth, ride, throw, sleight of hand. Definitely would be useful as an assassin. I think there's no question about that. So agility basically is in that group. It also affects tests involving missile weapons, which I know you have a skill in. And then metal is a measure of your overall health, endurance, and toughness. And when we determine your life, you're going to be adding your metal to your starting life total. So basically, those are the combinations to think about. Just a quick note from me. If I were looking at a Laywalker assassin, I would say agility and metal are going to be the most important aspects for you. Not that you should be a weakling and incapable of thrusting a knife, like, you can't put 0 points in brawn.
Yeah.
But your lowest point is 1, highest is 10. There are various caps, ancestries. Typically, aspects that you have are limited to a certain number, but there are certain ancestries that can raise that cap to even higher. So
I'm thinking of a brawn of 1, an agility of 3, and a metal of 2.
okay, let me get that down here. Just one moment. So, strength 3, that's going to be a brawn of 1, you said?
Mm-hmm.
An agility of 3?
Yep. And a metal of 2.
And a metal of 2. Okay.
Yes.
We'll do craft next, then we'll talk about your life. So craft
Marvelous.
has 3 components as well.
How long is this stream if we're talking about my life?
We're going to talk about your life. So it all began. Okay, craft.
1985.
We're going to multiply your craft times 2, and so you have 8. That's the total number of points you
Yes.
have to use here. Insight, and it breaks into 3 levels: insight, wits, and resolve. Insight is intuition, so it indicates your ability to detect lies, your empathy, your ability to understand others. So it helps in tests like deception, empathy, persuasion, helps in survival and animal handling and riding, because we know laywalkers are big about, riding creatures. No, I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, that's insight. So it's about intuition. Wits is your mental acuity, raw intelligence, and perception. It affects ability to decipher ancient languages, notice hidden things, and react quickly. Your wit score is often used tests involving notice, decipher, and evaluate, and it may also affect your ability to decipher scrolls. And then resolve is your strength of will and your mental fortitude, represents your ability to resist persuasion, to stand firm and cling to life. Resolve is used in making tests for fortitude and bargain. It is also used to resist the inevitability of death, which is why Reginald's is so high. He has resisted this inevitability for a long time. Very high resolve.
Okay. Are any of these tied to spellcasting? Or does that happen completely differently?
Yes, and in fact, if we were to look under spells, which you said you were looking at that page. What's the page?
Yes. So the page is 122.
Okay. It should say under the description of each of these if there is something in particular that it uses. So, for example, under acquisition, acquisition allows you to basically reach through space and lift objects or valuables from a target. And at the GM's discretion, you may need to make a separate sleight of hand, which is based on wits, test of difficulty to determine if the target notices that the item has vanished. So if you were using acquisition to basically be kind of a pickpocketing at range, if you were going to do something like that, then you would need to be able to have wits, which would make sleight of hand easier. So some spells you will need this, other spells you won't.
So there's not a hard and fast rule of you add your wits to a roll or anything like that. It's not like that's how you would cast spells. It's a case of I cast a spell and actually, that's probably a good time to talk about it. How does spellcasting actually work? Do I just say I cast lightning bolt, or is there a pass or success or failure?
That's the latter. So let me take a look quickly at spellcasting. Let me actually go to spell. This is the problem. They're like, all right, you can just search a PDF, and you're like, yes, 140 different occurrences of the word spellcasting.
GameFAQs sorted out this problem 15 years ago with like random number codes you could look up to get straight to the section.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Spellcasting.
They're like hex codes, aren't they? They're brilliant.
Yeah, so someone just like slams their fist on the keyboard. There's the chapter code.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Right. Spellcasting is your knowledge of this, blah, 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 blah. So
yeah, that is a throwback to Game FAQs.
Okay. So the way that a spell is cast is pretty simple. It requires a spell casting test, and most spells go off only on a success. So there's a certain difficulty that's set, and then you have to beat that difficulty. And again, you roll, I don't. So you're rolling to beat that using that typical 3d6 and so forth. Most spells require, I was going to talk about this when we got into the game in a few minutes, but most spells require either a free action or a full action to cast. And there's a difficulty that's listed under that spell that shows you how hard it is to do, and that's what you need to equal or exceed on your spell casting test. So, for example, the difficulty level, let's look at that acquisition again. It says that it costs 1 spell point. You have a certain number of spell points that you can use before they're used up, and you get those back by resting. It takes a full action in combat. I'll explain actions when we get there. And the difficulty is the threat of the creature you're facing. So if you're facing a level 13 bandit, then the difficulty of acquiring something from that bandit would be 13. That's the score that you need to beat. And you would need to do that using your mystical abilities. Sometimes there are benefits that you get, like you might find a wand that helps improve your ability to cast that particular spell. So when you want to cast a spell, you would say, if you're out of combat, you don't need to worry about using an action. But if you're in combat, you say, I'm going to use an action to cast a spell. The spell is this spell. The difficulty level, I tell you what the difficulty level is based on the threat of the creature that you're facing. You roll the score to see if you beat the difficulty. If you do, it succeeds. If you don't, it fails. And the only real exception to this, or the only real wrinkle, is that Kismet Die. As to whether if you get a 1, that may mean that it succeeds, but there was a problem with it. So, for example, the example they give for this is that if you're trying to entertain someone by playing music, and you get a critical fail, you may still succeed in the test, but it means that you've made them really sad because that was the song that they had before they broke up with their boyfriend. And so they're really depressed about it now that you're playing this song or something like that, right? So that's basically what this is. So that's essentially how you use a spell that you're casting. So that's the way that it works. The only thing I want to note for you is that because you have those soul runes, it's basically the identical situation. It's just that when it disappears, you get that back by resting, and that's energy that's come from the runes on your body, not from a scroll or whatever else.
So I'm thinking if I have a craft skill of 8, and I have to apply that to Insight, Wits, and Resolve, please. Because I'm incredibly new to this, please let me know if this makes any sense whatsoever. I'm thinking of an Insight of 2, a Wits of 3, and a Resolve of 3.
insight of 2, which would give you an indication of your intuition. Wits of 3, you said.
Yep.
Okay, which is mental acuity, raw intelligence, perception, and then you said a metal of 3.
Resolve of 3.
I mean, resolve of 3, not metal. Sorry,
Yes,
that's strength.
yes.
Resolve of 3, yes. I mean, it makes sense to me because you want something that you want your strength. You want your life to be high enough that you can survive if you don't assassinate someone on the first try.
Yes.
And you want to be
much.
able to prepare for them in advance. I mean,
Yes.
you could min-max it more if you wanted to like drop if you wanted to pour it all into wits or whatever. But I mean, I think
I kind of want to go almost not middle of the road, but kind of more thematically curved towards what I think my character would be, or what his past would give him.
Remember, your background gives you a +1 to one of those scores as well, which I forgot until yesterday.
it's a good call. Thank you. I would have forgotten it also.
Excellent point. Thank you. My background. Do you mean my class or my ancestry?
It would be your ancestry background, yeah. So, for example, when I picked Soulkeeper for Ghoul, I get a bonus skill, which was the Law skill, and I got +1 to my Resolve and other effects.
Sir.
And you're a line runner, that's true. So your line runner would give you, was that +1?
+1 insight. So I would have 3 across
3
the
of
board.
each.
So,
all right, well, there you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, if you want to even that out, that makes sense. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
So then, let's take a look at, let's take a look at your life then. And we'll do life, speed, and load, and then we'll come down to try and do life, speed, and load. And then I think we're done except for just spells, and then I will explain just the sort of situation of the game, and we'll play, like I said, about 20, 25 minutes, and then we'll be done. Awesome. And yes, to the mods, by the way, thanks for the reminder, Echo. I think we can start up the second raffle now. The second raffle is for the second game, the second of the digital editions of the Talisman Adventures fantasy role-playing game from Pegasus Spiele. Again, we gave one away already. This is a digital edition. It will be emailed to you at your address if you win this in a couple of days. So as soon as they put the raffle up, thank you, 8-Bit. As soon as they get the raffle up, then we will fire things up and we will get ready to go on that score. The raffle is open, so type in raffle if you would like to win a copy. Only one who's not eligible is Cold, whatever the name was of the lovely person that won it, the first one, but everyone else is eligible. Okay, so there we go with that. All right, let's talk about life now, and that is going to be, let's look at Assassin. Sorry, Mike, help me out. Assassin's what page?
Assassin is, you will need to bear with me a second as I scroll very, very quickly back to...
Oh, all right. I thought you had it there. I'm in the same
No, I was on Laywalker. Assassin...
I got it, I think, almost.
Is 67.
Oh, no, I don't have it. Okay,
Well,
67. I got it.
Druid.
I got it.
Assassin is life 12 plus
12,
metal or resolve,
which is
plus
3 is
2 per
15
level.
plus 2 per
Yeah.
level. Saber, did we add plus 1 to your level as a starting? We did, right?
Yes. Yeah, I did account for
so
that.
12, 15. So you have 17 life to start out.
Wow,
Not
I'm
bad.
very healthy. I think I'm very healthy. I feel very healthy.
I feel better. I think I'll take a walk. All right. And then we just have speed or load. How did we, Saber and Pyron, how do we figure out your speed and your load?
Oh, load is strength times 5.
That's right. So 15 is your load then.
And
Okay.
speed is, I forget exactly, but it was agility related.
Yeah, let me see. Speed.
Max load. So strength times strength times 5.
Yes.
So 15 for load. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, max load, strength times 5, and speed is 10 plus agility.
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's right. 10 plus agility, so 13 speed.
Excellent.
Okay.
And everyone
feel-
gets
I
those
feel
final
average
2
speed.
skills or focuses of their choosing as well, if you haven't done those.
Okay.
So I'm keeping up with chat, so I don't know if you did that bit.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Good stuff. All right, you are all set, Mike, except for the spells. You can keep looking at those, but otherwise you're
Thank
ready.
you. Yes, thank
Chai, last but certainly not least, let's get your attributes set. So I don't know how much of that you were able to hear, but basically you're going to add 1 point, first of all, to either strength or craft. That'll become permanently part of your starting stuff. So do you want to go craft or strength for that?
Craft.
Okay. So you're going with a 5. Then we go to, you're going to multiply your total points in something by 2, and that is your number of attribute points that you can distribute. So you've got 4 attribute points in strength, and again, those attribute points are brawn, which is like beating things up, agility, which is essentially dexterity, and then mettle, which is what your life is based on. So I know you're not a strength, based character, but you might want to stay alive a bit, so don't forget about mettle. So you got 4 points to work with.
I think I'm gonna go with 2, 1, and 1. So metal has 2, and then 1 in
Okay.
agility and 1 in brawn.
Brawn 1, agility 1, and mettle 2. Okay. Which means that your mettle is going to be, get down to profit. Okay. So that means your life is going to be 9 plus your mettle, which is, or resolve actually. So I take that back. You're going to want to use resolve for this one. So let's talk about your craft then. So craft, you've got 3 things, insight, wits, and resolve, and you've got 10 points to distribute that way. Resolve is your other life sort of based thing. So that's definitely going to be something you want to think about in terms of life. And that means if you want to go back and change your strength, I forgot that you could use either mettle or resolve. So if you wanted to change one of the others, because mettle isn't as important as I thought it was for you, because resolve is more, you can do that. It's up to you. Or keep it as is. I'm glad, Crow.
He's biting me. That's not super fun. I don't like being bitten. I think I'm not really sure what would work for a prophetess, brawn or agility, so I may just leave it as is.
Okay, that's fine. Metal may have its own benefit because it's resistance to things, so that I can see that. So for craft, we're talking about insight, wits, and resolve. Again, insight is related to empathy, so I know that's a big thing of yours. Wits is a little bit more of like deciphering, and so that also was important, for the reasons we talked about. And then resolve, as we've discussed, is kind of your spiritual will, you might almost say, and that's your life benefit thing for you. So all of those matter a little bit. It's just up to you which one you want to emphasize.
Well, it did give me a maximum cap on wits of 7, and so now I'm
That's
like,
right.
maybe I should just max that out and see what happens.
I mean, that would be a hell of a. You could decipher anything, is what that says. You could do that if you want. If you do that, it means you only got 3 points left for the other 2. That's all. But.
Well, we could do. You know what? Let's just see how that goes. Let's do 7 in wits and 2 in insight and 1 in resolve.
Okay, so we have got insight 2, wits 7, and oh wait, that means you resolve only 1. You only want 1 point of resolve.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm glad you kept metal as is, because thank you for the follow on my channel. You kept that as is. That's 7219. Okay, so that means that your life is either metal or resolve. Metal's higher, so you'd want to do that. So 9 plus 2 is 11, plus 1 per level, so 12. So your current life is 12.
Woo!
Do not get hit. Okay, speed is your agility time plus 10, you said, Saber? I think we said.
Yeah, agility plus 10.
Okay, so that means your speed is 11, and your load is going to be 5 times your strength, so 10 is your load. Okay.
And that's important because all of the classes have starting kits, and if you're like me and have a load of 10, you can't take it all with you.
That's right. The last thing you
but
want
how am I going to be a hoarder?
a hoard of knowledge. That's what we're talking about. Okay.
Well, luckily, like ghouls don't need to eat, so I just can throw away my mess kit.
That's certainly true. Okay, let's talk about starting kits, and then we're gonna get moving here. Right about on schedule. That made my second schedule, my backup schedule. Okay, for an assassin, you're gonna have the following equipment, Mike, and you can look at this under starting kits. You don't need to write it down right now, but just you'll need to do so, when we're done. Leather armor, a rapier or a short sword, a blowgun with 20 needles or 10 throwing daggers, which I like to think of as being in a bandolier, just,
Yeah.
Poisoner's kit, a disguise kit, antitoxin potion, and 2 daggers.
Disguise kit.
I'm secretly an elk.
I'm a tree.
I'm a lampshade. Okay, haversack, a climbing harness, a blanket, a tinderbox, 50 feet of rope, mess kit, water bottle, and a pouch containing 1d6 plus 2 gold. Now, I am not going to be crazy about encumbrance, but I am going to say that if, that I'm going to take into account your load as far as like rational things to carry. So like, why can't I carry this solid lead shield? Because you can't.
Solid lead.
That sort of thing.
Do you want to just quickly roll for gold
yes,
now?
go
If
ahead
I roll
and do that.
1d6?
Well, actually, no, because you only get 1
okay.
gold.
Oh, okay, cool. I cannot carry more. Oh, that's unfortunate because I rolled a 6 on a d6.
As you reach for it, it all disappears. It's just 1.
So we've established your character's unlucky. This is good.
I'm unlucky and I'm poor.
Okay. And then, so that's the assassin. For the druid, I think you already put this together, right, Saber? So you've got your sides, staff or shield, leather armor, haversack, bedroll, tinderbowl.
So I went with scythe because I couldn't have scythe and staff, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's really heartbreaking. So I'm on a load of 9. So I've got my runestones, my healer's kit, my scythe, leather armor. I'm probably going to ditch a couple of items out of the haversack because ghouls don't need food or water, so I don't really need those.
Okay. That's good stuff. And let me just say thank you to GoJays for subscribing with Prime to GOG. Thank you so much. Thank you for the sub.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
And yeah, I have 3 gold.
And you have 3 gold to begin with. Lovely. Then we have Pyron Regina has got chainmail, I think we said. The spear, that's your 2-handed weapon. Instead of 2 axes, I think I gave you 2 like javelins, we said, right? That we put on your back.
Yes.
Haversack, bedroll, tinderbox, 50 feet of rope, 10 pitons,
yarn.
which are like, oh, yeah, that's right, yarn, 50 feet of yarn, 10 pine needles, I think is what we said, instead of pitons.
It was like the thing, like the what you used to like paper cramps, like
Oh, staples, yeah, like 10
staples.
10 staples.
Staples,
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we're looking for.
That's what we're looking
I'm sorry.
That one. Hammer, mess kit, water bottle, 10 torches. I don't know if we decided anything of the 10 torches.
No, but I think maybe I can have 10. How do you like to call the small one? Matches.
Okay. Whetstone, and then a pouch containing 2d6 plus 2 gold, and you ended up with how much?
6 gold.
6 gold, which again, we were kind of like, how? So we'll have to think about it.
We're
how
not
it
sure
works.
about this.
I want you to check when you get a chance to just see what the load on that is to make sure that it's somewhere in range. With your 20, I think you'll be able to carry it fine.
Yeah.
But I just wanna
So
make sure.
scale mail would be 8 load, the spear would be 3 load, the 2 javelins would be 4 in total. So with that, I'm already up to 15 load, and I don't think the rest of it will be more than 5, so I should be fine.
Should be okay. Okay. Keep that in mind though if you find something else. Like again, I'm not gonna be hardcore about this, but okay. And then last but certainly not least, we have the prophet. So the prophet will have either, and you can decide yourself on this kit, I'm just letting you know, a mace or flail. You can have a sling with 10 stones. You can have leather armor, will have. Sacred scrolls, divining crystal, or cards or bones. So you either like crystal, cards, or bones to like divine with. That's up to you. There's no mechanical difference among the 3 of them. Pen and ink, a prayer book, 5 prayer candles, and a healing potion, which is useful. And then you have a haversack, bedroll, tinderbox, mess kit, water bottle, censer with incense. And again, this is all kept on that page 92, which is your starting kit. And then a pouch containing 1d6 plus 1 gold. So if you could just roll that 1 6-sided die for me.
Also, for people getting the PDF, maybe from a raffle, you can actually just copy this over from the book to your character sheet. So I actually just did copy and paste, had it on there, and everything was fine.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
So looks like 5. So 5
Yeah,
gold to start
5
with.
gold.
Okay.
And Saber pointed out with the lovely copy paste that he did that I got my numbers backwards. I thought that I needed to have really high wits, but I have to have really high insight.
Oh.
So can we do a quick edit there if
Sure.
we haven't hit save?
Sure.
So can I do 6 insight, 3 wits, and 1 resolve?
Insights, 3 wits. Yes, that's fine. And thanks for
Okay,
the check,
thank you.
Saber. Cool.
Thank you, Saber.
Good stuff. Insight.
No worries.
Lovely. All right, cool. Lovely. All right. In that case, I think we are pretty much ready to go, folks. And that's good. We have about 15 minutes to get a little bit started here. So I am very pleased, and we'll close down the raffle in about 10 minutes or so we can keep the raffle going until then. So I am pleased to introduce all of chat. Chat, I think you should give these people a big welcome. The starting party of Pyron Jade is Regina Augusta III, the Sprite Warrior, Darksaber 2K as Reginald Schoen, the Ghoul Druid, Peripheral Mike as Ashflower, the Laywalker Assassin, and Tasty Chai as Muriel, the Elf Prophet. This is your party, this is your crew, and this is Death's Messenger. Let me change up the music here, because I want to bring us, as our starting position here, I want to bring us to the city. Give to me tavern music. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. We are found in the city. It is a big city, a large city. And within the city, we are in, if I said tavern, I didn't mean that. We are in a graveyard, I should say, in the city. As the camera zooms in, we are, from a distance, looking at the sights and sounds and smells of a city which is just beginning to wake up. It is early in the morning. There is music flowing from different alleyways. There are the usual incumbent smells and sounds. A dog barks, a cat screeches. Somewhere in the distance you hear the stumble and muttered curse of a drunkard stumbling home to bed after a little bit too long at the tavern. And as the camera continues to zoom in, we find ourselves moving in the direction of a space which seems perhaps rather more peaceful, though still within range of the sounds of the city. And it's the graveyard. And as the camera sort of focuses in even further, we can see that there is, in a graveyard, a very stately place, lots of different stones and different, mystical things, smoke and steam and things like that all flowing around. But everything seems very peaceful, and there's no other movement besides the fog, except for one. I think the first thing that we probably see is, zipping out of the mist, a ghostly thing which looks very much like a white spectral dog. And it comes in and then darts off. And then emerging from the mist, we see Reginald Schoen, the Ghoul Druid. I'm going to assume that he has a shovel over one of his shoulders, having done a little bit of work at a recent burial ceremony, and now working with some of the, trying to get things sorted out. Things have gotten, he's like defragging his hard drive. He won't know what that means for a long time, but that's what he's doing. He's defragging the graveyard. And as he's there, sort of moving from place to place, there is a figure that is flitting towards the graveyard. This is a small figure, not very large, might even look like an insect if you weren't paying close attention, but it's a bit larger than this. It clinks a little bit as it moves, though, and as the camera sort of jumps over to it, you can hear this clinking, and you can also see on the back of this creature, maybe it's an insect, but then it's armored, that can't possibly be an insect, and then you see a longer body than you might have expected, and wings and all. And you see there is a small creature with javelins on its back and carrying a small backpack and holding a sack filled with enormous coins that weigh it down so it can't fly. No, that was just me jumping in. Flying along towards the graveyard. And this, of course, is Regina Augusta III. So I want to ask Regina what she thinks she is doing heading towards a graveyard in the city at this time of day. What might have brought you here, Regina, do you think?
It looked like a shortcut to the next pub. I really don't like flying through all the crowds of people like walking, because it's always like, I'm sorry, I'm not actually, just got out of my way. And so I just thought this might be actually a really good shortcut.
It's fair enough. So you are flitting towards the graveyard from one direction as Reginald kind of pulls his way through. Meanwhile, from the other side, slipping in and out of the shadows so much that you can actually barely see. If you weren't careful, if you weren't paying close attention, you would barely notice the presence of this creature. But you can see that it is a creature with bright eyes that glint in the dark, slipping from one place to the next. And if you happen to be, of all strange places in the world and the realm at this time to be, you might actually have lying there in the gutter after having been blind drunk and collapsed in a corner, as you do in Talisman. You might look out and you might think that you saw the figure of one with horns and maybe hooves, even though this seems absurd, but maybe. And that one is moving towards, sorry, fixing the music. And of course, what we're looking at with the camera is the figure of Ashflower, who is making his slow and stealthy way towards the graveyard. Ashflower, why are you going to the graveyard?
I have sensed the presence of one who needs encouragement to the next world, though I cannot see them anymore.
Okay. As you are making your way there, there is as yet no sign of a fourth person, but there is only the three of you just for the moment as you make your way there. Reginald, I'm going to ask you, please, to make... Oh, boy. I'm going to ask you my first check ever. I'm going to ask you to...
You said it, I thought it. Oh, boy.
Yep. Okay. That's fine. There's only these ones. No, it doesn't. Okay, shoot. All right, let me go back up to skills. Hold on a second. I'll tell you why in just a moment. And in case anyone's curious, I was not about to print out 300 pages, to get to this stuff easier. Okay. Right. So we're looking at that also. Okay. Good. And there. Okay, good. So I'm going to ask you to make, this is just a routine check. So I'm going to set the difficulty level for this, Saber, to be at 11. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to roll 3 dice, but specifically here, I'm going to ask you to roll 2 dice, and then the third die that you roll is going to be the Kismet Die. And again, this Kismet Die counts as part of the roll, but also can have an effect one way or the other. I'm going to ask you to make a notice check for me.
Okay, so I should be able to add one of my stats to that if I...
Right. I don't remember what notice is now. I'm guessing it. Wait a minute. I'll find it.
I know it makes a suggestion. I mean, if I had to guess...
I have it.
You have it?
Notice is wits if he wants to sense something with his senses, and insight if it's just an intuition.
Yeah, it's wits. Yeah, wits.
Okay. So I'm going to roll 2d6. And I'm not even on the page, so I can't see what I just rolled, which is helpful.
8.
Okay,
right,
and then Kismet. Well, that's a good start. and then +4 for my wits.
And +4 for your wits. Okay. So we're looking at a 12, +1 is 13, but the Kismet die did not work exactly as you might have intended. So let's talk about how that works. Yes, 8-Bit, thank you. Yeah, if you could close down the raffle. Last chance, folks, to get in on this raffle for the copy of the Talisman Core Manual Fantasy Role-Playing Adventures Fantasy Role-Playing Game Rulebook. Okay, so with a 1. What this means is that I can either do something or I can generate Dark Fate. I forgot to mention, a 6 on the Kismet die also gets you folks Light Fate as well. So you might have noticed that there are a lot of things that use Light Fate as we were going through character creation. So...
if I succeeded on the check, though, I could spend my Light Fate point to re-roll the Kismet die.
Yeah, but you do not yet have a Light Fate point. Remember, you get those when you enter, unless you start with one.
You start with one. It says you start with one at every session.
Oh, every session. That's right. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. Not combat. Yes.
I'm not going. I'm just pointing it out.
Okay, that's a good call. Every session. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. All right. So
I won't. I'll stick with the result.
So that means it's a 1, which means I get a Dark Fate. So I have 2 Dark Fate, which I'll be able to use in the next 10 minutes. Not very likely, but anyway. Okay, so you do end up succeeding. Theoretically, by the way, the way that a success or a failure works in this situation is If you fail, it basically means that you don't actually reach the number. So you have to equal or exceed you have to basically put these things together. The way that you get a larger success, by the way, if you equal or exceed the difficulty as you did, then that test is a standard success, which is usual. If you roll doubles out of the 3 dice, then it means, and the result equaled or exceeded the difficulty, then you got a great success. If you rolled triples, and the result equaled or exceeded the difficulty, the test is an extraordinary success. Now, in this case, I don't think you rolled doubles, right? So it's just a standard success?
No, 3, 5, and a 1.
Right. So that means that you hear something out of the shadows. Actually, 2 things. The first thing that you hear is what sounds almost like a buzzing sound, like of a bee. And then you also, something about the mist seems to shift in some strange way. You're not totally sure why, but as you sort of look up and around, you hear a buzzing sound, and you also see the mist shifting in your graveyard. And there are 2 different places this is coming from.
Sounds like the corpse wasps are back again, Boots. I head towards the buzzing noise.
Boots heads after you. Regina, I would like you to make a check for me as well. Same thing, notice check. So 2
Sorry,
dice.
I do have notice.
Okay. Which
So-
means you'll be able to get focus, you mean? So you'll be able to get a +2, I believe is what that means.
No,
So you
if
will-
I don't only have the base skill, so I can add my wits, but not the additional +2.
Focus gives you the extra
Oh,
+2.
because you don't have notice. I
Yes.
thought you said you do.
I do have notice.
Oh, but you don't have focus in it.
I have no focus.
Okay.
That's the thing.
That's fine.
So
Yep.
I only get my wits, which is 1,
Right.
added to it, but I don't get the additional +2 because I don't have the focus.
Right.
I'm still learning this stuff. So where is my? So I need to roll 2d6 first,
Hey, Helmus,
plus
hey,
1.
Josie. Yes, 2d6.
Yeah, my plus 1 for my wits because I'm smarty pants, and then 1d6 plus nothing for the Kismet Die. There we
Okay. So 5 plus 4 means 9. And the Kismet Die didn't have any effect in this case. So you have a 9, and you're just buzzing along. So you're rather surprised when you nearly bang directly into a creature which looks like... Reginald, what do you look like?
5'9", graying, emaciated. I do look like a reanimated corpse, although I am not a reanimated corpse. Shoulder length, wispy white hair and white eyes.
Okay.
Out of my way! Here I come!
I mean, it's up to you, Reginald. You can...
I just look at her curiously. Are you here to visit one of my friends?
What? No?
Can I show you to a grave?
What? I will show you to a grave if you don't get out of my way.
Regina, what do you look like for Reginald and the
So,
benefit of the audience?
Regina is a sprite, so think of Tinkerbell, but think of Tinkerbell plus size, so more bumblebee shaped. She has spiky brown hair and green eyes and lots of temper, and it's also, if you move a lot of mass forward, even if it's only like a sprite's mass, it's really hard to break.
Okay.
So I might have just break more or less like this short in front of Reginald.
Okay. So the
Don't
two of
see
your
a lot of sprites in my graveyard.
Yeah. Well, she's obviously like not to be like, that's because I'm not here to die.
Everything dies eventually.
Well, well, not tonight.
Some will. And tomorrow, I'll be tending to them.
Well, that's kind of too much information, Mr. Guy. You do you, okay? You just...
Oh, I've been doing me for over 100 years now.
Regina suddenly smiles brightly, I also do me. Like, I'm being me, like, all the time.
So why are you being you here?
It's a shortcut, isn't it?
It's a graveyard. It's a shortcut to the other side.
Are you threatening me?
No. I find given enough time, things take care of themselves.
I can take care of myself.
And then the All High will take care of you.
The what?
The All High. The other realm.
I don't need anybody taking care of me.
As everybody's taken care of sometimes.
As the two of you are talking to each other, Ashflower, you were aware of two things. The first is that you can see what looks like a bumblebee-sized, slightly bigger, but bumblebee-shaped anyway, sprite that is gesticulating and talking angrily with what looks like a sallow green ghoulish figure with a shovel over its shoulder. And you're aware of those two. They clearly are not aware of you yet. You're also, though, aware, Ashflower, that there is some other presence behind you that is quietly moving up through the mist. And my question to Muriel is, why are you coming to this graveyard at this time?
Well, because I was shown to, obviously. There's something here.
There was.
I'm not really sure what, but it sounded exciting.
It was, in fact, some mysterious vision that dealt with the beginning of some great adventure to which you were to be drawn. But also in this vision, disturbingly, was this sense of over and over again, this ghost that moans and cries and then disappears. This is a vision that you've had repeatedly over the last couple of nights. And so if you've come to this graveyard to find out about that, then you may be aware, because they're not trying to be quiet about it, of the presence of this bumblebee-shaped sprite yelling at this creature with a shovel over its shoulder. But I will ask you, and Ashflower already notices you, but I will ask you to make a notice check here. And then we will have to wrap up shortly thereafter, but that's okay. So
okay, remind me how to do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what that is you're going to be rolling 2 6-sided dice, and then you're going to be rolling a 6-sided die and adding it to that. But that last die you're rolling is also a Kismet die. Okay, so the Kismet didn't have an effect. So you have an 8 against a much higher difficulty than that. So you don't sense a damn thing, which means that you almost bang into, unless Ashflower moves around, the presence of Ashflower.
I do not move.
Okay. So you see, Muriel, can you describe what you look like?
A young, naive-looking elf who's a little disheveled. Her hair has some leaves in it that might be intentional and might not be. And her clothes are also a little bit, rumpled, dirty, but cute. Let's see. I haven't really thought of details, hair and whatever. She's adorable.
And Ashflower, what do you look like?
I am roughly 6 foot tall. I have what looks like a large hairdo in this mist, but it's actually horns that stretch all the way back. And I'm wearing a long, dark robe. And that's pretty much all you can see of me. There is a faint glow underneath the robe, but you're not quite sure why.
Okay. So as you sort of see each other there is a moment where there's a swirling mist, and all 4 of you, are suddenly aware that there is a mist which seems to be clearing. And coming out of what used to be just mist and fog is a faintly glowing, white, wispy creature. It drifts through the air, and it says, "Please, you must help us before it is too late for all of us." Muriel, this is the creature that you saw in your dream. And it is with regret, but with the need to make sure we give way to Pencil Saren, that we will bring our session 0.25, which is what it came out to, of Talisman Adventures to a close. But if you're hooked, chat, there's going to be more of this coming next month, and I hope that GOG will agree to host it again on their channel, but I will talk with Pyron about that afterwards, and we'll see what the powers that be say. For those who won the editions, by the way, thank you for participating, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I will thank them again, but I will first start by thanking my players. Folks, thank you for not only the patience. It is a lot of fun doing character creation, but I know some people might have just expected to just, watch just the play. We'll get into plenty of play, but it was really fun to see the characters coming together. So I will start, as I usually do, in reverse order. Chai, how do you feel about Muriel and about what you're thinking about for the game going forward?
I am actually really excited. As you guys know, I'm really organic with my character creation. I don't like min-max, and I don't have this idea of exactly how it's going to go. I kind of discover the characters and move forward, but so far, I think she's going to be a lot of fun to play, and I'm really excited to be a Malkavian, but not a vampire, so that'll be fun.
Awesome. Where can the fine folks see you next?
I will be on my personal channel the rest of the week through Friday. We will be playing, or continuing to play, Death Stranding, hopefully, if the baby will let me. Her naps have been a big failure lately, but I'm trying.
Well, hopefully that will be the case, but thank you for soldiering on through it regardless and for playing with us. And there will be more to come on this score for both Storm King's Thunder and for Talisman Adventures coming next month. So thank you, Chai. As always, a pleasure. Also a pleasure again to have Mike with us. Mike, again, thank you so much for the amazing video again. Let me just say that publicly. Beyond that, how are you feeling about Ashflower, the Laywalker assassin, and about your feelings about the game?
I'm really excited to see where Ashflower goes with this. I think that kind of air of mystery is a little aside from what I would normally play. Normally I'm quite an in-your-face character and quite a direct character. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to know, I'm not always going to be speaking about facts and figures. It's more being a case of how this character feels and what the spirits feel like around them. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this goes, but absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you very much, chat, for everyone who stuck with us through character creation. We're all completely new at this, so yeah, it's absolutely brilliant to go through this together.
It's going to be good times. And again, you will see Mike twice, not once, but twice next month. You'll see him for Talisman, and you will see him for Storm King's Thunder, of course. So thank you, Mike. Always a pleasure. And again, great work on the video, which we will show at the very end on our outro. Great pleasure as always. Saber, thank you not only for creating the character, but also for helping out on a couple of occasions, you and Pyron both being like, no, it's this page, Arv, or don't forget this extra skill thing. Like, 4 brains or 3 brains are better than 1, right? So that was helpful, so thank you. And yeah, how are you feeling about Reginald, and how are you feeling, now that you know the rest of your party, how are you feeling about the composition of the party as a whole?
It's going to be interesting, very definitely. I really like that nobody's gone for a cliche, standard, tropey kind of build. Everyone's gone for something a bit out there, which is quite nice to see. Let's say no one's gone for any min-max, and everyone's sort of gone like Laywalker Assassin. It was fun watching you two sort of work out how that would work. And same when Pyron was creating Regina. And it's funny that we'd be the first two to meet, because so Regina's quite hyperactive, I would say, and she bumps into sort of the most dispassionate, stoic character I think is probably on the party, because the meat comes, the meat goes. Nothing much gets to Reg.
That was pretty funny. It's like, are you trying to threaten me? He's like, no. It's just very like, what? No, that was a threat. I think there's going to be much amusement to be had.
This is a shortcut. It's a graveyard.
Yeah, it was funny to see. It was a graveyard. It was a shortcut to the other side. That was funny. Where will they see you next, Saber?
I'll be right here tomorrow having a look at Void Bastards, which is on sale this week. Tried it a little bit. I like it, and it's hilariously British, so that should be a good time.
That's going to be good stuff.
Mike nodding along. So.
Do you know, by the way, everything in this book refers to meters. I'm going to feel like all you poor folks feel like who are always figuring me out with feet. I'm like, what does that mean, 30 meters? I'm like, 90 plus something feet? Is that what that means?
1 meter is about 1 Celsius.
Yes.
That's Celsigs, yeah. But the Celsigs, see that, but can we do the crossover? Can we bring Celsigs into Talisman? I don't know. Anyway, but Saber, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Thanks again for doing Moobot and Dashboard as well. Thank you, last but certainly not least, to Pyron Jade for again coordinating this and making it possible for us to do this on GOG. I thanked GOG, but I want to again thank Pyron for being amazing. So thank you so much for that. Pyron, how do you feel about Regina, and how are you feeling about the party composition now that you've seen the whole group?
Your composition is wonderful. I'm so much looking forward to all of this. I think this is just great, and I think we already have so much flavor. And looking at the different descriptions of the locations in the rule book and all of this, I'm happily excited. I'm also really excited about my character, because playing a dumb character, and that is just like with one. This is going to be so relaxing. I think Regina is exactly what I currently need. And I think that's how role playing should be. Like you just make the character that you in that moment need, and Regina is just out there. I might have to rethink the voice because I didn't want to annoy anybody like a lot. So, but apart from that, we're going there.
This is going to be good stuff. Otherwise, where will folks see you in terms of, will you do any streaming soon, relatively soon, or not?
I currently don't really have plans, but I'm always up for the occasional multiplayer here and there, and of course for Storm King Thunder and this campaign, which will definitely continue on this channel. There are no worries about that.
Yay.
And so I don't know yet, but we'll see each other.
Okay. Well, again, thank you to Pyron. I'm going to sign off. And we are going to play the amazing video by Mike just as we end, but I'm going to sign off for here. So I'm going to ask chat to give lots of love to the amazing players, to the super patient Pyron and Saber, who watched 2 other people creating characters, although I agree it was fun. But to Pyron, to Dark Saber, to Peripheral Mike, and of course for the amazing video, etc. And of course to Tasty Chai. Thank you so much to all of the wonderful players, and we will see you all next month. Thank you, everybody, and bye for now. Alrighty. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to do it for us here for this week of Pen and Pixels. Again, I want to thank Pegasus Spiele for sponsoring this campaign, and I want to thank GogCom for hosting it, and of course thank Greenford Studio for the music, and thank everyone who was involved in making this possible, because again, I think it went very well. It was a session, as we said, it was a session 0.25, but it gave you a sense a little bit about what it's like, and if you want to know more about how it actually works in play, you'll have a chance to see that next month, but I think it was a way to kind of get things started, so it was awesome. If you liked and saw what you heard tonight, then please follow us here on GogCom. Please make sure to check us out and subscribe to the channel here, and please click through and subscribe to and follow us on our individual channels. I noticed a few of you did that on my channel, so thank you as we go through today, because there's a lot more where that came from. On my own channel tomorrow night, we're going to have Community D&D, which is an ongoing campaign with Shadowed Mage, who made that amazing Talisman overlay that you folks saw before that we were using. Shadowed Mage is the DM for that, and it features, of course, Echo Alpha X5, who's here in chat. It features Triffity Mats, who is here in chat. It features as well Hoodie and Rock God, and so all of those people have been playing Dragon of Icespire Peak, and they've been doing an awesome job with it. And then Friday, I have my Esper Genesis campaign, my Space Opera campaign, which is based on D&D 5e rules, but set in the far future in space. That's Friday night. And then Saturday we have D&D, which is Palace of the Red Pasha, the continuation of my Tyranny of Dragons campaign, high level that is. And lastly, Sunday, Sound Clash the Clampdown, which is an awesome new game designed by Brandon O'Brien, all on my channel. I'll be right back here next Tuesday. I have to work out with the players what we'll be playing. I don't know if I'm going to be back to Vaporum Lockdown, or if we're going to be doing one of the either D&D or Talisman Adventures next week. We'll figure that all out and get back to you about it. But something like that will be awesome, that we'll be happening here very soon. So if you like what you saw, follow us, all that's good stuff. And please stick around for Pantsless Aaron, who once again we have run over. And again, I am super sorry, Aaron, and I keep saying it's not going to happen. And then we do like a big event like this, and then it happens. So I apologize unreservedly, and I'm sorry. And I owe you multiple drinks and things like that. So that's the thing. Oh, thank you. thank you. I'm glad that it was helpful, Crow people. I'm glad that it was helpful. I always try to do that. And so thank you everybody for all of that. And I will leave you with this amazing, amazing video. Thank you everybody for everything. And yeah, much love. And thanks for a very successful first session. Look forward to much more of this campaign. And most of all, go to Pegasus Spiele and go to DriveThruRPG and pick up a copy of this book if you haven't already. Buy it, spread the word about it. It's a good system. And we are happy to be sponsored by it. That's it for me. I'll see you folks very soon. Until then, everyone be good to each other. Stick around for the video, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.